The Board of Sign Language Interpreters Rules Advisory Committee meeting is convened at 9:41 a.m. on August 13th, 2025. This meeting is being held in person and through Zoom video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. I will now call roll. Darcy absent. Natalie?
Here.
Edwin absent. Mel? Here. Lori? Here. Caitlin? Here. Christy? Here. Amber absent. Amanda? Here. Deanna? Oh, I thought it was really coming. Nissa?
Here.
Aaron? Here. And Maya's not coming, correct?
She's gonna be online. She's just gonna be a little bit late.
Members, when you wish to speak, please state your first name for the record. Committee members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. The Health Licensing Office asks that individuals attending through Zoom keep their phones muted and cameras off during the entire meeting, or until they are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties feedback period, if indicated on the agenda. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what the committee has statutory authority to regulate. Public members wishing to speak, please sign in on the roster sheet available in the room or email Josh Page at josh.page@ha.william.gov. You provide your first and last name. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocol when conducting committee business. This meeting is now called to order.
Maya is now here as well.
Maya is now here. Okay, so. So today, we won't be doing executive session. Heather has been given the day off. Heather, be free to do something else. So we won't be doing that. Of course, if there's anything that comes up, I'll keep notes and her and I will circle back and next. We're going to talk about, so we started working on supervisory 2 meetings ago, the supervisory license. We're going to go back to that, see if we can wrap that up. The renewal rule, see, make sure that that aligns with Senate Bill 950. If you guys think continuing education is something you want to look at for all the license entities, I have a kind of a generic one ready for you to look at. We're gonna have 2 public and interested parties feedback. We'll have one right after that discussion, and then another one at the end, like normal. That was requested by ORID, a representative from the ORID. So we've done that, and then the rest is it to relook at what we've already done. And then also, I have completed the 3 we looked at last time. So all of your recommendations are now wrapped in those, so we'll look at that and make sure that's focused on the medical education. Okay. Let's talk that we're gonna go over additional meetings at the end of the meeting, but I just wanted to point out there's a lot of them, they're all in pink here. These aren't necessarily necessary if we can get through stuff. So keep that in mind, that we can definitely cancel if we necessary and keep going.
It's good to have them on there though.
Yes, correct. And those are the ones we have a quorum for. And then the other piece, which is we're gonna have an information gathering session on Sunday. And
Sammy, what was that on when?
it is a virtual information gathering session. So it'll be virtual. People can come and there's some topics we kind of want to hear about any information they have about Senate Bill 950 and how they think what they think the intent is, things that the rules need fixed, how they should be fixed, kind of anything people want to say. We're gonna have that opportunity for them to do that. It will be, September 4th from 5 to 7, so we did it after the work hours, so to hopefully, allow people more time. It won't be a back and forth, it'll be feedback information, giving it to us, and then, we'll use that to draft the rules for the RAC and for board members. So note, you guys are more than happy, more than welcome to attend, absolutely, and I would encourage you to. However, since you're part of the decision-making process, and the rulemaking, and you get this time to give us all the feedback that you want, I would caution you to make comments, to provide feedback to us, because you're doing that in this setting. But I would encourage you to listen, and then we also don't want to create a public meeting on accident. You know what I mean? So if you attend, we'll keep you guys muted. So, yeah, so I just kind of wanted to put that out there. That I'll make that, I'll make a statement in the beginning of it to remind everybody that, you know, all these things, I'm just letting you know. And I'll even send an email to you guys with more direction on what you can do. What? Yes.
This is Mel. Just so that we can share it with our network, would you guys create like a flyer? Maybe with like a Zoom link or something, and then we can, I can share it.
Is this a flyer?
Well, an electric one, just, it's something for, that's,
An email. But I'll send it again.
for people that might not be us.
That's a lot of work. So you want something shrunk down?
That's pretty.
Okay,
Yeah, I will do it.
There's. Chrissy can do something.
I mean,
I'm still working on your end. We don't have a communications part. So, yes, you're hilarious. There, actually, in the email that you received, it is a pared down version.
Oh, I could take that.
Okay, I'm actually going to resend it to all the RAC members and board members, so you might get it 3 or 4 times, just to make sure everybody gets it. Sit around,
Yeah.
give it, me and Christy will work on some kind of fancy flyer, that's not a big deal. Yeah, yes.
Erin, I'm glad you said that, because I was gonna say the same thing. So we can email it out, and I was wondering where this has already been shared. Because I could send it to our agencies that we work with, but maybe they've already received it. I guess it doesn't hurt to do it twice, but I just didn't know how it was disseminated.
So it went out to our Gov delivery. So Gov delivery is anybody who has signed up as interested parties, or if I've said, here, add all these people to the list, like back in 2023, I got a list of interpreter agencies. I have no idea if they're still active, not active, but they get it, and if they, so they're getting it, I'm gonna resend it again, so what they have. But I would encourage to send it again, because the more people that know, the more information we'll get, and the better the rules will be. So, put it on your Facebook feeds.
Go down the listserv, the RID listserv.
I'll make sure that, Christy gets it. I know she kind of does the web, or do the webpage, but.
Christina Healy.
Yes, thank you. I'll talk with her.
It's Christy.
And Jack and Chad, and kind of get them, see if they can put on all our web pages.
This Christie is not it. I did not receive the email with that. I received it from somebody else. So
Okay,
can you make sure? I'm not-
Yes. I will. Let me. Oh, you guys did receive, you're not a licensee, right? You're not licensed, right? Correct. But you are.
This is Erin, I did not receive the email,
So
but you
guys
said
are
that
not-
you're sending it out to the RAC people.
So. Now I know
Free
the
to
RAC
get it.
members are
No,
not.
I did. So I must have got to licensee.
All emails.
Wait, I got it. Maybe it was just me.
I'm sure it
Maybe
is.
it's just me.
Yeah, so we just sent it out yesterday, and then, so today, so tomorrow, I'll get everything flushed out and we'll shove a little flyer you guys can hand out there. Pretty sure.
Because I thought it was something about this.
Any other questions?
Was it from you?
Yeah,
It would have come from.
Oh, right.
For the interpreters, could people please identify themselves before speaking?
Sammy should have come through the. It would have said Oregon Board of Sign Language Interpreters Information Gathering. Oregon, RHAM, Public Government. So you guys are gonna get it again, and you're gonna get it, if you're not licensed, you'll get it tomorrow. Any other questions about that? Okay, there we go. And again, I will send out, or Josh will kind of, I don't know what it'll look like, at this point, something that, like, we're etiquette during the information gathering, like whatnot, kind of whatnot, so that you guys are prepared. But I do want to encourage you to listen, so that when we come back to the RACs, we have a good understanding of what people want and what they understand.
This is Erin. Will it be recorded for those of us who can't make it?
It'll be recorded and it will be posted online and give myself more work. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Alrighty then. Did everybody get their materials? Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me start with a supervisory license. Sammy, and that is on page. Starts on page 10. With the numbers that, they all have them in this. So this kind of tells you who the licensing is. This has already been aligned to meet the 3-year, the annual license going to 3 years. So if you look at number 2, supervisor license currently 3 years, becomes inactive on the last date of the month, 3-year committed to issuance. This is already kind of been aligned. And this is a rule that's very similar for every license type. Sometimes it'll have like, it has supervision, it'll have, oh, this person can supervise. So it changes a little bit, but it always has some of that same, when they become like inactive and when they renew and all those types of things. This is just telling you who it is. Any questions about that rule? On number 11, page 11 is where we start the application requirements. So we didn't get very far when we worked on these 2 meetings ago, but where we landed was on page 14, little c. We worked out some different language under little c, the 5 letters. Recommendation, each letter, designates person signing. So that's kind of what I changed. But I think we probably should start on page 11 and work our way down. Everyone get that? Okay. So. 1 through 4 is like everybody has to do that. You have to fill out an application, you have to submit it, be 18, and you have to be in compliance with the NAD, RAD code of ethics. So the real stuff starts under 5. So the difference between a generalist and a supervisory license is that 3 years of experience. So that's what violates. But what we need to tell the people applying, like, what does that look like? Well, is it from 20 years ago? Is it before licensing? Is it after licensing? Is it when they did provisional, like they had a provisional license or during their generalist? So kind of give them some direction. Or any, maybe it's, yeah, I mean, it's open. The statute is open. Just meets requirements established by the board related to minimum qualification. Has at least 3 years qualifying experience as determined by the board. So it's very open. You can really put whatever you want. But our job is to give them an idea of whatever.
This is Amanda, admittedly, wasn't completely the same, but the within the last 5 years, is that statutory or is that something that you put in there? So
Oh, no.
3 years of experience within the last 5 years, is that guidance you provided as a kind of?
Oddly, I can't get my notes and comment to the media.
Okay,
That would be there,
okay,
but I don't want to alarm anyone.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it makes sense. I
It's
just,
just
yeah.
me giving you examples,
Okay.
but if I can't get it to PDF,
dang it.
I'm not very electronic and stuff.
Okay.
Couldn't even get me into the state of the roll. Anyway, yeah, so this is just kind of generic information. I also provided on page 16, because you guys usually ask how we document it. So I gave you Entry Technology has a work history, part of their application, so it would look something like that. Just as an example, I wanted to provide you guys an example.
Thank you.
I mean, and I guess when you first start licensing, you want to be pretty open, right? You don't want to lock yourself into it. It must be in the last year or 3 years, you know. So being more inclusive is better in this situation. But we do need to give the applicant and HLO an idea of what we should be saying.
This is Lori. I'm also thinking that clarity on that would be a good idea, because if you have somebody who's freelance interpreting and they might interpret twice this month and 4 times this month, does that make a year or 2 years or 3 years? What does that look like exactly? Or is it at any point within that year you interpret it?
Why would you do that?
You are welcome. You know,
We faced this issue with the Oregon Judicial Department when we created our ASL interpreter license, as part of that process. And we said something like, had to interpret 100 hours on record within the last calendar year.
Okay.
Because of the quality that we wanted to maintain, that was really critical, that people were still practicing. The piece that I feel might be different with somebody who's doing supervisory could be, it is more practical, not practical, what I'm trying to say. The supervision they might be providing isn't necessarily skills-based. It could be coaching, it's a talk-through type of thing, which is really different than a practitioner in a high-stakes, arena that you want to make sure the actual application skill is high. So depending on how we define our vision around supervision might dictate some of this.
Yeah, and what you deem qualified.
Yeah.
What is that qualified experience?
So for me, and what I was mumbling over here, not so quietly under my breath, was, and this is just my age showing, I'm sure, the 3 years of qualifying experience, I hear you, Sammy, you want to include as many people as possible. But if you have an interpreter with just 3 years of experience, even certified, it's a really different caliber of decision-making and analysis than an Amanda Smith with 30 years of experience that comes in. And so it depends on the guidance and the role we want a supervisor to provide for the newer interpreters. And I get that we want to keep it. So
It is the highest level license, so I mean, it should be somebody that's more veteran.
senior.
So Christy, I actually was thinking of that in a different way. Not to say that they only have 3 years of experience, but in those cases where they've worked for 30 years, but they've been off for 10, and now they're re-entering. So in the most recent years, they have to have. So I guess you covered it 2 ways, right? So to think about what's the total amount of skill and experience we want them to have.
This is Amanda, but 3 years is statutory though, right? The 3 years is in the law. Proof of having 3 years of qualifying experience is in the law. We can't change that 3 years. We can change when that 3 years happens, or we can make
define
each year
qualifying.
worth 10 years, but we can't, we can't change the 3 years.
Or we can change what qualifying. This is, but I like your thought too. Yeah. Because to have a supervisory license, you'll still have to maintain your RID certification. So you are still continuing with your CQs. So you are still current research.
Well,
In theory.
This is Caitlin, not necessarily, because we gave some other options. So yes, RID certification is one of them. But if you took the DEI, they said, that's fine. If you took the DEI, they said, that's fine. So we need to include something about continuation program law.
Deanna joined as well about a minute ago. For the record.
And to be clear, this is Mel, to be able to supervise a in-training interpreter, you can just have your generalist. To supervise an interpreter in training and a provision, you can be a generalist
Until
or
2030.
have a supervisory license. And then in 2030, what happens?
2030, you can't supervise the provisional anymore, but I don't think that is the same for the entry.
this is Amanda, I would hope generalists can still supervise in training, like on the job. Kinds of. This is Amanda. Just kind of going back to what Kate was saying about continuing education, and I know we're not necessarily talking about continuing education, I want to put it in the idea that I would hope that we would potentially require, or I want to have a conversation about requiring continuing education around supervision or supervision holders, right? Like that idea.
This is Mel, and again, it's probably my counseling background. I don't know why since we started this, I've often thought that this would parallel counselors who provide supervision for new counselors, like, and for that within their board, I think they have to take a specific class that says, I am now able to supervise new counselors, like I have some type of specific training, I know what I'm doing.
This is Christy. Is there such a class?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it's a credential, but I think there's definitely workshops. There's that, a couple of grants that have come out, like Master Mentor. There's a lot of curriculum on how to be a better mentor supervisor for upcoming interpreters. That's free material out there. But there's a lot of us who have taken that. I think it was housed at Western Hall back in the day. So, yeah. I mean,
And this is Amanda, there's also academic courses that people could take, translate into CEUs, that sort of thing, but yeah, there's definitely training available.
This is Melanie. And I guess part of that though is the vision and supervision of, it's a paid thing. So like the interpreter who wants to be a supervisor might invest a number, $1,000 to get the credential or the classes to supervise, knowing that people might be seeking me out to provide supervision and I'm gonna make up a number of what I want to charge for that, $25 an hour. And that's, and I have a body of 12 people that I'm helping supervise, whatever. It's not a goodness of the heart thing, it is a business.
Christy, that's where I can see, I was just saying, Lori, in an educational setting, you know what you're gonna be paid until you no longer exist. It's all on a little grid. And you get your COLAs and occasionally they fight for more money, but I can see supervisors in an educational setting wanting to then go back to the union to get another column added to be able to be paid to do that. So I can see that being a sticky.
Are a really great opportunity.
Absolutely, like, I support it, but it's gonna be a sticky. And this is Lori, I don't know that interpreters in the educational setting are going to be able to take money from their colleagues during their regular work day during which
Well,
they are being paid.
This is Amanda. I also think that's one of the benefits that educational districts could offer to the interpreters is that they pay for the supervision.
Stipend or something.
Well, they pay for the supervision, so I pay the as the district, I pay the supervisor, and it's on our time to supervise that person, right? Like, that the district actually provides that as a service to cover the
It's
supervision.
negotiated.
Oh, I get it, I get it.
When I worked for an agency, that was part of, I worked at a reduced rate because my supervision was provided for me, right? And so within the system, there were 5 counselors who had the supervisional license, and we would meet weekly, and that was the incentive to be there. But it was part of their job description.
Right.
And so no money exchanged hands.
Mhm.
They might be getting $100, $200, $300 more a month for that qualification. But it would be a different job description. And I'm recalling you guys talking about the title of providing supervision for colleagues in the educational setting and how that can be a problem. I have that at PCC too. We can't provide supervision for peers. It has to be a different position.
Yeah.
But this is gonna impact systems, absolutely.
So, this is Amy. This is about how to get your supervisor license. This is not how you're going to become a supervisor. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Why they did that to us, I don't know why. Very odd to name the license as supervisor license, because it implies that you must supervise, and that's not a fact. And it gets confusing, because the supervision piece is down lower in the qualifiers to be a supervisor, who actually provides. Does that make any sense?
This is Amanda, it does. And is it within our purview to say, even though the supervisory license says may provide sign language interpreting, may supervise sign language professional license holders or whatever, that we would create the how to get the license around the idea that you would? I mean, you may not.
Yeah.
But the idea that you could supervise feels to me like that's the bar you have to cross to get the license.
Well, on page 41, you have supervisory qualifications that you want to.
Did our past selves think about that? That's what.
What do you mean?
This is Caitlin speaking. So 950 removes the limitations on generalists.
Right.
Therefore, people going for a supervisory license, that is a choice that they're making to get more money.
Yes.
now. Like, even though the law says may provide supervision, generalist renewal limits are gonzo. We would assume that anyone applying for a supervisory license does want to be a supervisor.
I agree. This is Amanda, I agree.
I mean, you can set the minimum qualification however you'd like. It's very vague in the statute. I have to keep it open. So circling back to 3 years of qualifying experience and how that's gonna look like.
This is Lori, and I like your idea of establishing a number of hours, documented hours.
What would that number be? Or what's your theoretical?
Is it 100? I like 100.
That's random.
Yeah.
Not really.
Wait a minute. 3 years of experience, you're trying to equate that to 100 hours, is that right?
For a year, so 300 hours.
Okay, yeah, I could.
No,
This is
I could run
Amanda.
it fast.
this is Amanda. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know how you're gonna quantify it. So in the courts, I can contact the court scheduler and be like, how many hours have I interpreted? And they provide me a letter of this is how many times you've been assigned to work in the court because they have a centralized scheduling system, right? So I just get a letter from one place who says, this is how many hours we've booked you for. And great. This is worms everywhere, right? Like I'm gonna contact all my agencies and be like, how many hours have you booked me for? And how many of them were actually, how many times did the client show? How many times did like that feels like madness. Even though I like it.
I have an
But I
alternative
don't.
suggestion.
Well, I was trying to think through the, like the pathways that are here, once you flip the page to 12, 13, and 14 and 15, are the pathways that we've done for generalist. So I'm thinking like 3 years post certification,
You don't have to have,
right?
I'm sorry, you don't have one.
you don't have to have had your generalist to apply for the supervisor.
Okay, so I'm thinking 3 years post credential.
We could say 3 years post generalist.
We could, which will work in the future, but right now we have those supervisors. I mean, but one pathway could be 3 years post generalist, I suppose.
Well, we could just put it A, 5A.
The future self.
Yeah. You won't come in that pathway. It'll be 3 years post generalist license or
Gotcha, yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Blah, blah.
But, this is Lori. If I were to read that, I would interpret that as, I don't actually have to have worked, but I have to have held that license for 3 years.
This is Amanda. Which is also, just want to point out, since 950, only one cycle. So I may or may not have even renewed yet to my generalist,
Right.
and now I can become a supervisor.
Right.
What did you just say, Lori?
I said, if we're gonna put down, you have to have held your license for 3 years prior to getting the supervisory license, that doesn't indicate that you've actually worked as an interpreter during those 3 years. It's just that you held the license. I passed the SLTI back in 1993. I don't know that I'd interpret that well today.
You need a great supervisor.
Well, this is Amanda. I think that's the thing, right? Because I'm also thinking about other people who maintain their credential, educators, for example, who don't actively interpret, but maintain their credentials so that they're, able to teach and remain current and all of those kinds of things. So how important is it for a supervisor to be a practicing interpreter? Not completely hypothetical, right? I mean, I think that there's a bucket of people, and what would their qualifications be that we would say, oh yeah, no, I want, like you just said, like I want Lori to be a supervisor, I want Elisa to be a supervisor, I want, right? But like, what are their qualifications that are separate than being a practicing interpreter? Because also being a practicing interpreter does not make one a supervisor, right? Like those are different skill sets.
Erin, am I hearing you say, Amanda, that, for example, maybe they haven't interpreted for 10 years, but they've been supervising people for 10 years, so they have that supervisory experience, even if they don't have the interpreting experience.
Yep.
So would that would be under the qualifying experience, like one of the A, B, C, or Ds for 5? Is that what you're saying? 6 is completely separate, so they have to do 5 and they have to do 6.
Oh, right, I get what you're saying. This is Amanda. I wonder if that's where it would go in terms of like, kind of what we were saying of what if we wrote this as if they're going to supervise, even though it says you may supervise, you may not supervise, given kind of Caitlin's thing. You don't have to be a supervisor anymore. You don't have to get this license. So if you're choosing to get this license, I need you to be a supervisor. I need you to be the supervisor. So I think, yeah.
And if this is Erin, how would you, if we did put it under 5, how would you prove that you've been supervisor? Is that because when you're supervisor, you are charging other interpreters and then you have record of that? Or would someone have to keep, like, yeah, how would you validate that?
This is
Unless
Amanda.
you're an
Yeah,
employee
right.
up somewhere that does that for
Yeah.
you.
So this is Amanda. I mean, I wonder if in the beginning it would be an attestation or however you say that.
Yeah.
Mission thing, yeah. I say I did it. Because so Lori has an actual supervisory title, I think, correct, right? I've been an educator for 20 years, and I've taught internship classes, or I've supervised people out on, right? So there's jobs that could say that, but you've been a mentor of various interpreters out in the field in a much more informal way and not paid. But those experiences count for something as well. I'm thinking of when you were like liaison in education.
All my beers I drank at the bar, I'd be giving my bar
No,
back.
that is not what we're doing. Right? But then also I'm thinking of interpreters who've had interns placed with them. Like, they don't typically get paid, but they've had interns with them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that hopefully they were qualified to take those interns on. But sometimes they've had special training. I mean, at Western, they offered special training to people, and CEUs and things like that. But, so I wonder if at the beginning, while the system is being set up to then be where you would have a roster and you could identify, these are the hours I've spent doing this.
This is Erin. Would that mean, this might be a little too bureaucratic, but would that mean like providing a form that says, have the people that you supervise complete this form or attest or verify that you did supervise them for however many hours, and it'd be like your paper that you would be able to turn in, but if we did that, would we create that paper, or is that getting too in the weeds?
This is Lori. I thought that was gonna be required of the provisional license holders anyway, to have that information to submit to HLO to get the next license up. So my impression is that information may already exist, but not for the purpose of the supervisory holder or this provisional license holder. So that may not be additional Bureaucracy is what I'm.
But if it's today, they wouldn't necessarily have that information.
Right.
This is Erin, so if it's today, would they, if they had the form, could they go around to the people that they've supervised, that they can find them and have them sign it?
I mean, maybe.
Is that just too much? I'm just trying to think of how we would prove it. If you're not, if you're doing it informally, like examples you shared.
So this is Mala, and this is again what I know, so I'm just giving you what I know. Like, in my counseling world, I wasn't even allowed to say I'm a licensed counselor. So I had 2,500 supervised hours, right? And those were all documented by my supervisor. And that helped me. And I told them because I was paying them or at least registered or whatever. So when I think about who can provide supervision, I am thinking of somebody who is more elevated in the field, who has more breadth of experience. And within that breadth of experience, how do you justify it? So then I think it's, like Sammy was saying, on 11A, prior to generalists, like we have to include a benchmark, right? Like, so you have been a certified practicing interpreter for at least 3 years. That's the lowest bar, right? And then how to attest that you've been supervising. I think you can do at this point, there's gonna be a wave of new people who don't have the best. So I want to put in something like that qualifying experience. Could be something more simple, like documented proof that you've taken 40 hours of supervision training. And then, that coupled with that makes me feel like there's at least we've got some rudders, I don't know that word, but bumpers there, right? We got some bumpers. I was in training now. So something I just said, like, yes, I'm like a generalist. I have all this experience, but then I've gone above and beyond, and I've taken some specialized training because right now we don't have any way to track my bar hours, but you can track my certificate that I are working on.
This is Christine. Could we set 2 qualifying descriptors between now and 2030? You would need these qualifying experiences, and then 2030 and beyond, you would need another set, so that we can figure out the people now and move it towards the actual documentation.
I would recommend just doing it now. We have to do a 5-year rule review, so.
Oh,
can do that
okay.
Again.
Erin, I like this idea of your 3 years qualifying experience, taking the class. I may have missed something in what you said, because I was just thinking taking the class on its own isn't enough, right? So I feel like I'm still stuck on how do you prove the qualifying experience piece. Maybe it's already been said, but I think I missed it.
So, Sammy, if you go to the form I gave you, this is if you're employed, you could put it, the employer fill it out, name of the business street, and then they would sign.
16, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Page
right.
16. Or there's another option that gets a little more into the weeds. Sleep missions.
So,
On.
Oh, this is when I applied for a job back in the day, and it's like, it's free, required, 5 years of, it's, elevated management experience. Like, in my past life, how do they word that with those job descriptions? Like, has
Aggressively
proven, advancement in responsibility. Like, whatever that wording is in those job descriptions. Like, so, I'm a generalist, but then somehow, oh, look at me, I got promoted, and now I have,
This is Bob, you're talking about in the position description that would say a bachelor's degree and 3 years of management experience. But then would the person, the supervisor need to have, and first they need a job description, or you're just thinking of the verbiage to put? Because then you have, okay, then how do they prove it? That they have management experience plus 3 years of experience, or 5 years of experience.
This is Erin. How will people find to know that you can be a supervisor? Like, how does that happen? How do they find out that I can go to you, Amanda, and you can supervise me? How would I learn that? I'm just thinking, because if I'm, can the agency attest to it? Or can your place of employment attest to it? Because you're not just out there, like somehow people find you, you're not just floating.
People can go on the lookup of the license on each alone.
Supervisors.
Right, but if I'm trying to get the supervisory license, and I'm trying to prove that I have experience, and I've done this already, there's gotta be some channel that people have identified that you exist, either through an agency or, like, you don't just have your own personal website that people go to and then sign up, right? Am I making sense?
Yes, this is Amanda. Sorry. Okay, so this is Amanda. So what you're saying will be beautiful in 2029, 2030, 2031. Currently, it's a no man's land. Like, you have a supervisor when you go through a program and you go on an internship. And then everything after that is completely informal.
Right.
So there isn't a mechanism yet. So I'm wondering if this first stage needs to be years of experience, you've taken some effort, and maybe that's enough right now.
Yeah.
Like, you've made an effort to learn more, and then in the future, we will say, we do actually want documentation, we do want, because this is a brand new system. This has not happened in Oregon.
Keep documentation.
Sure. Which we did for provisional.
Sammy, can you repeat what you said?
If you don't tell them what they need to be keeping now for later, then they won't know to keep it, so it
Right.
still could be
Yeah.
no.
So this is Bob, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Erin, I think I might have lost it, but so I understand that that's like future state, but so we're trying to just help me, just bear with me.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out how we can get people to be supervisor, how they can apply for this now, right? How they can use their experience now. So if you want to do this now, Amanda, how have people in the past, how are you gonna prove that you supervised other people? Like, can you go to them, or can you go to your agency? Like, how did people find you to begin with? Was it through the school? Was it through whatever? Because you've supervised interns, right? Can those interns sign something and say, yes, I can tell you Amanda supervised me for 20 hours?
Well, so this is Amanda. So yes, because I was actually a professor at a university where I taught internship, and I have, like, so I have a mechanism, I have a
that.
system to say that. Lori has a title to say that, right?
Okay,
But the majority of people who do supervision, that could be an overstatement, majority, but a good number of people who are going to get this license and do supervision in the future don't have that, right? So like, I have a coaching credential and I have other things that I could show and prove that I've done. I don't think that's the typical person who's gonna be a supervisor.
how do those people get found? Like, there's some mechanism that they get connected, so isn't that?
To internships, it's word of mouth.
Okay.
There isn't a
There
formal
isn't,
process.
okay,
Yeah.
so this is Erin, so then that, someone whose perspective would need to have some sort of documentation, some sort of form to, maybe, I don't know if they can include what they've done in the past, in the recent past, but then they could start collecting it then and start saying, okay, I've supervised these 5 people for these number of hours. I mean, do we wanna say how many hours, total number of hours that they supervised in order to qualify, or do I can do that for the next 3 years? To be able to prove that?
Talking about qualifying supervisor experience or just qualifying experience to become a supervisor license holder?
This is Mel, I think, like the triangle, I think right now, when we start, we're gonna have a narrow entry of who could be a supervisor. It's gonna be, prior to 3 years of experience after being a generalist, right? And then it's gonna be like some type of training that an effort I've done above and beyond, and maybe it's our titles, right? then as more time goes on, it's gonna flip and we'll have a bigger gateway, more people will come in. It's gonna be tough at the beginning until we grow who can be a supervisor. And with people who have the experience or the title or whatever, just because like what Amanda was saying, because it wasn't structured, we're going from unstructured to structured, and so we're gonna lose some. And that might be okay for a little bit, and then we'll train more people on how to be supervisors. You know what I mean? It's just, it's gonna be a little bit, that transition gonna be, we don't have a formalized way to track that. But I think we can be concrete on years of experience, licensing, a class, a webinar, and maybe within that class and webinar is you are supervising people and we're documenting it within that system, right? Like within that class or that training, you're gonna, fake mentor people and we're gonna document or whatever you wanna say that training has to have.
This is Christine. I actually was thinking the inverse.
Me too.
Don't you think you would capture more people because there isn't the requirement of documenting? If you can say you've had experience, you've taken a class, you're good to go, right? It seems like this first wave, we might actually get more applicants for supervisory. And then as it goes on, we have to review it, narrow it.
5 years. Yeah,
Maybe I'm wrong, but
maybe that makes sense. Like, so now it's more right, and we're gonna document your hours as supervisor. You are being, yeah, I like, thank you.
this is Lori. I kind of like the idea of just saying 3 years plus additional supervisory experience. Check the box. Did you do it? Yes. For now.
Supervisory experience.
Well, I think it needs to be more clarified beyond 2029 than it does right now.
I mean, if you're gonna attempt to something and you get audited.
You have to define it.
Gotta have the information.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we can define what we got 3 years experience plus, give the parameters for what that plus looks like. And then just have people say, yes, they did it, as opposed to requiring people document everything to death and have to go back and find some person that they supervised 30 years ago.
I think it's less.
This is Amanda. Sammy, can you say more about what you asked us before that conversation happened? Are we defining what it takes to be a supervisor or what it takes to get the license, and why are those different?
You don't have to supervise in order to get a supervisory license. It's not a requirement.
But I
You can
think-
assume that everybody will. But
Right.
You don't have to.
Right, but I think if we assume everyone will, because it does take extra effort to get the supervisory license than just a generalist, and you can have the generalist for the rest of your life. Why would we not write the requirements for the license to be a supervisor?
What I'm saying is,
Sorry.
what we're talking about was having supervision experience to get a supervisory license.
Oh, gotcha, yeah,
And
right,
that,
that's chicken egg-ish.
well, and we already have people who have the license
Yeah.
that aren't doing any of that. They're just showing us they have their,
It was just years of experience, right?
it was a test that you have one of the credentials. So.
Yeah.
Since Aaron, something else I've been thinking about is that number 5, seems like all it's saying is when you need to get your qualifying experience. Like A through D on 5 is just the time frame. But the what, it seems like is number 6. Am I understanding that correctly? So with number 6, you just have to do one of these. So you have to do one of these things within this time frame here. And so I've been stuck on,
It could be, that could be right, yes.
is that an interpretation?
Or you can, I think it could be either way. You could have the defining qualification under 5 and the time frame, or make everything under 6 the qualifier and just the time frame under 5. I think you could do it.
Yeah, this is Aaron, because it seems like, I think, because I'm clearly not a sign language interpreter, but like when I'm reading this, that's what that says to me, is that this is the time frame that I have to have met one of the following requirements. Within the last 5 years.
I mean, when I wrote it, let me tell you what I was thinking when I wrote it.
Maybe we don't even need A through G, because if it's just within 5 years of the date of application, these other contexts don't really matter, do they? Because within 5 years.
What, I wrote this just to give you guys ideas.
Okay.
And there's always a problem. Oh, I can't think of the word. Risk in doing that because it makes it feel fine.
Yeah.
But all we're trying to do is if somebody comes on January 1st, I want to supervise their license, say we have all the rules in place. What is Michael going to be receiving from them that shows us that they have 3 years qualifying experience? Today, it's, oh, you have your RID, whatever acronyms for 3 years. But when these go in place, it will be different. So maybe it's that, it could still be that, or it could be something more than that.
This is Amanda. How many supervisory licenses are currently
200.
200? How many of them are in state? 4 or 5?
Right here.
I feel like do we even have 200 licenses? 325. Thank you. That's what I needed to know. Did you make that up? Okay.
I was impressed.
I go to the RID website.
Yes.
130 are not.
130.
Sorry, don't have to worry.
So if
Which
this
is
is now,
the opposite. That's fine.
this is now, so if we said under 5A, prior to generalist licensing being required or something like that, like you have to have had your generalist for 3 years, which is 1 cycle.
There will be no one.
Well, there's us, because we're already supervisors, so we're the bridge.
Yeah, but we wouldn't need.
We don't have. to
Oh,
read
I see what
it.
you're saying. You're saying just keep the 200 for now. I see what you're saying.
What, 200?
The 200 who currently have licenses.
And so are you saying that in order to become a supervisor, you must have held a generalist license for 3 years? I just need to know how to write it.
Starting January 2026, that would be nobody, because it
Right.
hasn't been alive for 3 years.
I mean, it can be a pathway.
Right, it can be a pathway. Also, this is Amanda. We might have people who, I don't know, people sometimes move. And so there could be somebody who moves into the state who has been an interpreter for 400 years. And you're gonna make them be a generalist for 3 years before they can be a supervisor.
You need to learn the Oregon ways.
Oh dear.
Mrs. Mel, okay, I retract said statement.
You don't have, no, it furthered the conversation.
Well,
It's a good statement.
These 130 people, if they have a license in another state that the board deems
Right.
qualified, they don't have to renew. So you only have 70. That was just the bad.
I think what I'm gonna, what I'm kinda really want is that class. I just want something that's tangible, that says I took so many hours of training to be a supervisor. And like, that's tangible. Michael doesn't have to
Yeah.
get documentation from 50 people that said they supervise. It's like, here's a letter saying completion of course fee is something that
Yep.
can be uploaded and like done.
I concur.
And you have to have your generalist.
Or this is Amanda. I concur. And also think a pathway should be 3 years post credentialing. Not just post generalist.
What I'm hearing, I think, is that we keep it how it is in the rules today, which is submit proof of having at least 3 years of qualifying experience, and then any of the pathways.
Yep.
That is the qualifying experience, and some class. But I don't know what class it's going to be in supervising underwater basket weaving, or is it an online class, is it sending trooper for dummy class, I don't know, so we need to know what that should, maybe it's nothing, I don't know.
This is Amanda. I would say 10 hours of a training that the title includes mentoring, teaching, coaching, supervising. The title includes that.
Just Aaron, but what don't you
I'm
want to
just saying,
say,
it's just-
sign language interpreters, it's just not, or is it any kind of experience in any context, or is it specifically sign language interpreters? The unique field,
I
so.
For the interpreters, can people self-identify or try not to crosstalk? It's hard for us to follow. Thank you.
This is Mel. Well, the thing about the microphone and the medical credential, it had to be approved training by the board. And that is how we determined which trainings were appropriate. It was a horrible experience. It took hours to figure out. Remember that?
Aaron, yeah, I do, and why make more work? Why not just say something like what Amanda was saying, a class in which you are taught how to mentor, coach, supervise sign language interpreters. We keep it broad, and then when it gets submitted to the board has the authority to decide, like, is that fair? Do we need like a super tight structure on that?
This is Christie. I also think if we make it cleaner, we actually identify classes, then if those classes go away, we're.
I don't think it should be that.
This is Mel. I think, like when I do a training for my national license and it's like a self-study thing, I can't remember what I do.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I have to, so here's my completion, and what we could do is include the write-up, right? Like this is the course description, and in that course description says mentor ASL interpreting. So it's not underwater basket weaving for welders. The description will say it is for interpreters. Like that has to go together, completion and course description. But
If we narrow it to sign language interpreting, does that weed people out instead of, I mean, because I had supervision in criminal investigations. And, you know, but I was able to translate supervision here.
Exactly.
But I mean, so, and then supervision, you don't learn until you start doing it. So for me, I think if you narrow it, you might narrow the field, the people that could supervise, maybe great supervisors. So if they're able to document that they have,
Transferable skills.
well, you know, supervision, right? You know, and if they have the skills, supervision is a skill by itself. And then if they are already interpreters, then when they already have it, right? They know how to supervise and now, and they have the license. So it can.
this is Mel, like, seriously, like, yeah, it's also the difference in supervision. Like I am a manager and supervisor of interpreters, which basically means I tell you when to get your timesheet in. And not to be inappropriate versus as a supervisor, like our intent on supervisory here is like, okay, you're a baby interpreter. Let's work on your classifiers and put you in settings. And like, it's like actual skills of application versus a manager. And so those are different skill sets. So, but I hear what you're saying.
This is Amanda. I concur with Bob, and I'm trying to figure out the how of it. But like, so, because I think that mentor training in the field of interpreting is pretty much a no man's land also, right? Skill development, all of those kinds of things. So like my coaching credential, I have transferred over into the interpreting profession, but I've paired that with my teaching and my, you know, so I'm probably not a great example, but
You're a unicorn.
but I think that, but I do think, I don't wanna weed people out who would have transferable
I think of a
skills,
solution.
right? Oh, good.
One of our other programs were to get their practice. This is for sex offender treatment providers, I believe it's the one. They have to document in the application that they have, you know, 1,000 hours of direct client contact, right?
Okay.
So, you know, they can document that they have X number of hours of supervision, you know, frontline supervision, not management. Something along those lines.
This is Mel.
they test, they document, they write it down, you know, I have 1,000 hours of direct client contact, I have 2,500 hours of supervised contact, meaning the supervisor was there with them while they were doing the work, et cetera.
This is Mel. Do they have to show that somehow? Like,
It's an attestation.
it's an S, that word.
Yeah, and so, I mean, if there was a question, it would be, dear supervisor, this is what they're saying. We have a complaint about this. Were you their supervisor? I don't know who that is, right?
Yeah, this is
So-
Lori, and that's what I was kind of trying to say. I think we can have people attest to having had the experience. And I think that over time, if they're not good at doing what the supervisor repeats, people will weed them out anyway. They just won't go to them. They will hear that they're a crummy supervisor and they won't do it. So
And we do, this is Bob, and we do have other statutes, practice standards type statutes that we can work on, you know, like being unprofessional conduct. Saying they're one thing, but they're not. We have statutes to bolster the, us to do what we're doing. Did you try down everything I said?
Verbatim.
I get a copy. Cause I'll forget by lunch. So keep the conversation going. We just need the minimum, right? So somebody testing and we have a way to weed them out. And over time, they'll weed themselves out. People, the community will say, no, don't go to this guy, go to this guy. Yeah. Person, individual.
Alright.
I have a question. This is Bob again. Do any of these credentials have a supervision? Not even the PEI advanced or master?
Nope.
Caitlin, I'm sorry, I don't have page 12. Under BEI, we have the performance test with basic. I thought we didn't want to do that for supervisors. Am I correct?
I think that's.
Is this new?
You guys haven't actually got them.
This is Amanda, then I second what Caitlin is saying.
We go back to. Nice. I don't know what you want there.
So we're
guessing.
Caitlin, so we are working on the qualified experience, what that means.
So here's what I think you said, is we're gonna stick with, in summary, the 3 years qualifying experience would be, submitting proof to having completed one of the pathways, all that stuff. And then add a pathway holding the general's license for people in 3 years. Yeah, it's gonna be like 6.
I think it's better, but.
No, I think I'm gonna make it over 3.
Oh, never mind, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
And then if they hold a generous license, I'm gonna say something, I don't know how it's gonna work out, but if they do hold a generous license, I don't know what the class is. Give me, what is this class? Supervisor class. Give me information.
And this is Erin, and that's not a path, taking a class isn't a pathway, but it's a minimum.
It's an addition.
It's an addition to number 5, right? Adding
It will be
number 5.
a number 6.
Okay.
Submit or test proof the.
Oh, and then 6 will be 7. This is Amanda. I clearly did not write down exactly what Bob
I'm
said.
just joking. I'm over here typing too as you're talking.
Okay, but like 10 hours. Okay, it's just a starting point. What do you want? 20 hours of training in mentoring, coaching, teaching, and or supervision.
Training/coursework in.
Training/coursework in. Yeah, of course.
It's, or.
Oh, no, they don't.
Yeah.
Mentoring, coaching, what else?
Teaching or supervising.
Aaron, didn't Lori also say something about coursework?
Training and or coursework.
I don't know what training is. I mean, what are we? So if you have to
Hands-on.
submit something, what are you?
Yeah,
what are
you're
you
gonna submit your CEU transcript that shows the title of the workshop or the training or the whatever as including mentoring, teaching, any of those words, or the course description. That is a system that we do have in place currently. Majority, if like 99% of interpreters are already certified and track their CEUs. And RID has a transcript system for their CEUs that says the title of your workshop. So that can be verified. That's what I would argue is that documentation, your RID transcript that has the title of the workshop and 20 hours of workshops need to include mentoring, teaching, coaching, supervising. Interpreters, yeah.
This is Caitlin. And for those who aren't already certified, most workshops also have a certificate of completion. Absolutely, we don't have CEU transcript.
Yep.
Don't want to say board certified.
Or board.
No. Say board certified.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last comment?
We don't need to say board certified. Or board approved, sorry, wrong clarification, board approved. This is Amanda, how's that landing for you, Sammy? You're making a lot of faces.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. My mind isn't doing.
So this is
I
Amanda.
have an idea. I got.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, certainly trainings
What we
happen in.
require if you get audited. And put it in here, which is like evidence of successful completion.
Yeah.
Of course, agenda.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not gonna be exactly like that.
This is Bob. And if we were to audit somebody and we didn't think they had it, and because we don't know exactly what it is yet, before we did anything, we would take it to the board. The board would help us understand.
Okay.
This is Amanda, I just can't imagine that this isn't the same in other professions. They have trainings and continuing education requirements. It's that. That's exactly what it is.
That's why I took it from
Yeah.
the rest of there.
Perfect.
Copy and paste.
Copy and paste.
Therapy, venture
technology. Coaching, mentoring, teaching, or supervising sign language interpreters.
I think he said interpreters.
Okay, now. I feel like we can move on.
This is Caitlin speaking. Under BEI, removing basic as an option for performance.
This is about, the BEI basic is comparable to the NIC.
According to Mel.
Like,
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
I mean, I would take your word, but.
Yeah, and that's old language, like basic, advanced, master, and then they have 3, 4, and 5,
Yes.
so it's the 3.
This is pretty much the same as Jones.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, can you talk about?
Eleven ten?
Oh, my head.
It's 10:56 now.
It's 10.
I saw Mel, still looking at you. Right now.
Oh. Be very exciting, like doing this.
Are you a-
I'm gonna, I'm working.
There's a lot of conversation. Yes.
We'll see what that looks like the next meeting.
It'll be.
Okay. So we're gonna leave the BEI basic. Okay, one is the exams. As the BEI and the EIA. Which we just worked on in the generalist. 2 meetings, 3 meetings ago. And then the credentialing, this is all the credentials that are on RD's website. Plus the BEI. And then the experience and examination. Which we. 5 letters of recommendation, each letter in this, every day, one on page 14. Number, letter C, little c. Each letter must designate the person signing the recommendation letter as witness the applicant on sign language interpreting for at least 10 hours. The letter of recommendation must be from each of the following. Agency. You guys define what that is. Single supervisory generalist, do you want generalist there? License listed in the 3 consumers or something.
This is Lori. I'm wondering what happens if somebody hasn't interpreted for an agency. We're saying from each of the following.
Says Aaron, if they haven't interpreted for an agency, then what would they be doing something else?
Working freelance.
No, it's how,
This is Christie, it's how we define agency, I think, because I'm in an educational setting, but I'm an agency.
Can you speak up, please?
it says K-12.
Educational interpreter are educationally, in an educational setting, but it's still an agency. Are we referring to a sign language interpreting agency only?
No, hospitals, K-12, post-secondary schools,
Yeah.
the list can go on.
And it's listed there.
But this is Bob, I think what Christie's trying to say is an agency, could it be a private entity?
Thank you. I'm not sure.
Hospitals are private entities.
Yeah, but I mean, other than hospitals. Well,
You can't say other than a hospital.
No,
Any
I know,
private
no.
It's not your interpreter agency, but a whole list of them.
This is now, so most sign language interpreters, SLIs, are self-employed, a lot of them, and they sign up with agencies, and that's how we get work. There are the few of us who do direct contracts with a hospital or a court, and we could get a letter from our contacts at those places. But I would say a majority of people go through agencies, either through employment or as an independent contractor. There are a few of us that do direct contracts, but we would have a point of contact to get a letter from.
Says Aaron, I feel like that definition doesn't actually include what I define as an agency, which is a completely different business. A hospital and schools, like, that to me, an agency is someone who has a pool of independent contractors who you then contact to work with one of their interpreters. So I feel like that needs to somehow be included in here, because my understanding of this is just, I guess it says including but not limited to,
We're telling them what agencies.
but I feel like it should still include that designation that I'm trying to explain, which I call an agency, and I don't know what else you would call it.
Well, so for the purpose of this rule, SLI agency means an agency with 5 or more sign language interpreters. That could be Apex Sign Language Interpreting, that could be Voya Sign Language Interpreting, that could be Jerry Lewis Sign Language Interpreting. As long as there's 5 or more people, it's an agency.
This is Caitlin. I have a little bit of a concern with that agency must have 5 or more SLIs for rural areas. There might be one interpreter in a 300-mile radius. And they don't.
And it's not an agency.
Right.
This is Erin. I agree with that, and I would like to say, many hospitals don't even have a single sign language interpreter. So I'd like to say, but not limited to maybe private businesses. I don't know if that's a way to incorporate what I'm trying to say, and then hospitals, K through 12, and then don't say 5 or more, but who contracts with 1 or more SLI, contracts or employs 1 or more SLI, including but not limited to private businesses, hospitals, K-12, and post-secondary schools.
This is Mel. Trying to remember back to our intent behind designing this. And it was a level of vetting. Like, so it was a third party, like an agency or somebody who would get complaints or know if this person was qualified based on consumer report and report of people in the setting that they're being employed to. Right? I think that is what we're trying to capture here. So when you, that frame, does this meet what we're asking? So we have places that have a process that can take a complaint. And I agree with you, Erin, like part of it as an agency was like a business that would know that, oh, this person actually has more complaints than others, or this person we don't use anymore, they've been whatever. And they can attest to their professionalism and their qualifications. Because at this point, this is for supervisors, but also for generalists too. So we did want to have a layer of some type of vetting. And so if it's just me saying I'm good, there's no vetting.
This is Erin. I agree fully with that. It just has to be clear, because to me, this isn't clear.
Okay.
So if we could rename, like add additional language like what I just stated, it would be clear to me. Or if you just want to say a third party that's not a consumer of sign language interpreting, because maybe that opens it up to be lots of different things. That's not a direct consumer.
Right. So it could also be the pastor of my church who doesn't actually know sign language or place interpreters. That's the.
This is Erin. That's why I think sticking with this is fine, as long as we just do, 1 or more SLI and include the word business.
Hello.
That's just possible.
Yeah, doing well. How about yourself?
Not on mute.
Does Erin, does that make sense what I said?
I hear what you're trying to say. I can't track words right now, but I believe you.
Erin, to repeat the last 4 person spoke up.
Yeah, this is Erin. So I think we should, that's why I think it's good to keep what we have in the sign language interpreter agency, but broaden the definition so that it includes businesses in addition to hospitals and educational settings. And then based on what Caitlin says, say with 1 or more SLI, not 5.
I'm gonna read it. Sign language interpreter agents. Lead in the study of the following. The 5 letters of recommendation. Sign language interpreter agency for the purpose of this role, an SLI agency means one or more sign language. One or more sign language interpreters, including not limited to private business, sports, hospitals, K-12, and post-secondary schools. Okay. I think I got enough to work with. Any other feedback on the supervisory role? Nissa or Maya or Anna?
Yeah, this is Natalie. I don't have any else to add.
It's you. Sorry, Natalie.
No worries.
Can't see your name up there. Okay. So now we'll go to a meeting. To the renewal. This is where you would say, put it here, but you must attest to it. And then the next row, you would say, so starting from the top, one is, I see it's subject to HLO provisions regarding renewal of a license and provisions regarding license to practice and educational requirements for issuance of duplicate. Licenses issued or renewed under the rules are valid for 3 years. To avoid delinquency fees, license renewal must be made when the license is active prior to entering inactive status.
No.
Yeah.
If we say late fees instead of delinquency, just for readability, or does delinquency have special meaning in this context?
I have to on. No. We'll be late. So,
This is Erin, I'm getting ahead of you, but I see that delinquency is also in
Yeah.
for C.
I'll
Control.
control find it.
This is Amanda. I think we're almost there. Like I'm not too far ahead of you.
Oh, I'm not.
Renewal application and then the little b, attest to having obtained the required continuing education pursuant to, and then there's a bunch of X's there.
Yeah.
Is there actually an OAR?
I created one.
Oh, you made a, wow, you're so powerful.
It's on page 21.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't
mean,
sure what the,
With staff.
yeah.
That one there, it's there too.
Yeah.
Because I didn't go in and make a meeting. There's nothing under 816.
And this is Amanda, and statutorily, there wasn't anything
Not required.
of defined in any way, just, okay. This is all open to.
Yep,
Our
and you could
recommendations.
maybe just have supervisory, have CEs, just generalists, regional entry,
Yeah,
you can decide each license type can have different. Or not, or nothing. We have boards that have no CEs. Registered nurses don't speak leading education. Interesting. I was just. That's fascinating.
My mom was a registered nurse and she often went to Hawaii for her CEUs.
Well,
Now I'm questioning, how much she was leaving me at home?
or if you have a higher level nursing license, like nurse practitioner, you know. That's something that you want. Want to see these school employees themselves. Erin?
Aaron, yeah, the number 4 inactive license renewal is the ability for a license to be inactive. I'm just thinking out loud. Does that feel like that's something to do with 950 only? Or is inactivity also possible after 950 is in effect? It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
It doesn't have anything to do with Senate Bill 950, but it does have some stuff to do with HLO laws. So HLO defines a license as active for 1 year. It can be inactive for 3 years, and after inactive for 3 years, you're expired and have free.
All of them.
This is Mel. Because I'm in the midst of creating paperwork at PCC. At the bottom of processes and things, I also have a piece that's like terms that are defined. So I'm wondering, you guys already have that?
What?
Like
Those
defining
words.
inactive, expired,
I mean, look,
you know what I mean? Like sometimes those things can be.
already in your rules and defined, you've added them. I mean, it's us assuming people know how to use the definitions. Maybe I need to say define. And the point something else.
This is Erin, can you do a hyperlink to the actual definition?
Well, I'm gonna go no. Secretary of State wouldn't do it. I'll get assigned to somebody at HLO to do it.
This is now the hyperlinks, so just when something gets changed in definition, you have to remember where those hyperlinks are.
Yeah.
And the cleaning up that web.
This is Amanda. I also kind of want to err on the side of training people how to read this as opposed to doing it for them. So even if it was in like the FAQs or something like that, of like, hey, are you curious about what some of these words mean? What if I told you there was a definition section?
Better idea.
Let's
Back
define
to the
that
basics.
section.
Just as Mel with OJD, it's they define all the terms at the beginning.
That's what we.
That's what it,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah.
I read that, I knew that.
No, because we get it a lot of order. So
Have a what? A lot of order.
we get all of these out of order when we get here.
I could do this. Terms used in this rule are located under OS.
Beautiful.
But every word it says defined, I just put one spot. Yeah. Rick did me good. Thank you.
This is Lori. So Sammy, are you asking if we think there should be continuing ed requirements? Or are you asking what we think they should be?
Both.
Amanda. Sammy, is this where I would make my disclosure as a like extra cautionary thing about?
Do you teach CEs?
Yeah.
We're not on CD yet.
I thought, we just changed that topic again, yeah.
I'm not done. I'm 2 weeks behind people.
Okay,
You can do
Please
it at
hold.
any time.
oh, okay,
As adjusting.
that's just.
Yep. That's what most of our.
So this is Mel. Is this where we would maybe say is current with licensure, is current with like, with RID, I have to be current with that credential? Would we want to put something in there here? Does it already say that?
Nope, it talks about when the license is active, but yeah. it doesn't say.
So and renewal requirements, we want to, this would be like, I'm still active with my credential.
Do you want people to be active with their credential? I'll have to make sure that's lawful.
That's a funny
I
sentence.
kind of feel like it's not. But
Tell me more.
I feel like we got to sit in other statutes. Is no, but every statute's a little different. So we'll look and see what it's.
This is Erin, that's an interesting comment, because in order to get it kind of reminds me of the OHA thing, because in order to get. Maybe I'm gonna retract that.
No, I know what you're saying.
But, yeah, I feel like if you get your, whatever that license, whatever your certification is, I feel like you have to keep that up in order to keep the level of, like, to me, this makes sense. It wouldn't make sense to me that you could get it and then let your certification lapse, but then still have this level of licensure.
Well, it's a private entity, you're requiring to keep that current. And it's possible what your law says is the state board shall adopt rules to carry out all the statutes, determine qualifications for renewal of licenses issued under.
This is Caitlin, but some of our pathways do not require the IPA. You don't have to do anything, you just take it and you're done. We also have, if you passed your NIC however long ago, but you're not active, it's still an optional pathway. So I don't think there's anything that, based on what we have, if you did one of those things, one and done, you're good.
Yeah, the exam and experience one.
This is Amanda. I wonder if we actually want to say it hasn't been revoked as opposed to it's still valid.
In good standing.
Right, yeah. Well, and not even in good standing, but just hasn't been revoked, because if you let it lapse, that's different than discipline that you had it revoked. Right? So if you're saying there's nothing you have to do to upkeep like the EIPA or, anything like that, although you don't get the EIPA revoked, I suppose. I've not heard of that at least. So I suppose you could be,
If you come, what if you get your generalist license through? So you don't have any credential.
Yeah. But if you,
What are you gonna show us?
so can we say, this is Amanda, can we say, isn't there something about no disciplinary or pending disciplinary action in something? I feel like one of the applications had something like that. So yeah, there's no mechanism for a lot of these things, but I also think it wouldn't be good for us to be like, oh, you had your certification revoked, no worries, because you don't even really need it, right? I mean, they could.
Yeah, I don't think that,
No?
I'm almost 100% sure that's.
All right.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I will.
Then what's the point of licensure?
I will ask. I mean, to say you can't renew your license because you're not in good standing with it. That feels real.
So then why would, this is Amanda, then why would we rely on the private entity to give us any standing for them to get the license?
Well, I guess they had to do something.
They did something to revoke
I mean, I'm gonna ask.
No, it's fine.
I'm telling you what I think the.
This is Mel, I think we can get to what Amanda's talking about through our own process of saying no current complaint with each of them.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
good.
automatic.
Right, I mean, I think just calling that out
You
for
have a
any,
red flag.
yeah.
Does it say that?
We have a computer.
How do people know?
In your application, it says, actually, I think.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Application.
I feel like I've seen this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that goes to renew and licensing puts. Big red flag. No, not doing it. And then they go back to regulatory, make arrangements.
So this is Aaron, so it doesn't have to be clear or written anywhere for the person to know that that's potentially happened to them.
This is Bob, on the renewal forms, I believe it actually asks the questions, do you have any discipline from another board? So, Mel has discipline from the mental health board, and he's renewing this license.
That's different from renewing a general list and you have it. Maybe I'm not understanding.
It says here on page 41, have no current or pending disciplinary actions imposed by the office or other regulatory board.
You gotta give me more than that, like. Rule is it?
It's 41, it's supervisory requirement for SLI provisional licensee holder.
So this is for the, if you want to supervise somebody, you're a supervisor. of it.
And what we're
So
asking,
that's the word.
what we're asking for is like in the renewal process for anybody would like that to be part of that process too, but you're saying it's automatic. We just want to call it out. If you allow us to, which the answer is no, it's fine.
Yeah, this is Aaron, I feel like that's fair to ensure, but there just needs to be some transparency around what the expectations are. And if I'm not meeting them, why I'm not meeting them, instead of it feeling arbitrary. So that's my only concern, and that's why I would support like being really clear and having it written somewhere, whether it's on the renewal form or having it in.
It is implied, this is not, Sammy, it is implied. I mean, I
I'm
get
just
it.
trying to get my mind around it.
I'm just saying sometimes.
This is the first time I've ever heard this, so I'm trying to figure out why you say it.
This is Amanda. Can you not renew your license if you have pending disciplinary or whatever the word was? Pending claims? Because what if the claim was unfounded? Then I guess once it's unfounded, you can get your license back.
So.
Like a pending claim doesn't feel like it has
Yeah,
validity.
so if there's somebody's currently under investigation, we would take a second look. I mean, there would be a fitness determination,
Yeah.
for lack of better words, just what was the complaint about?
Right.
And, are we protecting the public, or is
Right.
this something from another board? We may issue a license, renew a license, and then we'll follow up with, we'll let another board continue their investigation, and then we'll pick up and do whatever we need to do. So it's not a definite, no, you're not gonna get your license renewed. It's a red flag for us that there's something pending. So we'll investigate it during the renewal process. Investigate could be as simple as calling a different board or calling the individual, the licensee, and asking about what it was, and just quick follow-ups to see if we should issue the license.
I guess I'm confused. Are we talking about having no pending or current disciplinary action with a license you have an HLO with, a license you're trying to renew? Or a license that you may have because you're a doctor?
This is Amanda, I'm talking about the HLO license.
Okay.
So if I have so if Mel makes a complaint about me and I'm up for renewal, and she's just made the complaint and it's starting the investigation, that will keep me from getting my
Yeah.
license?
You're in due process, you have two processes.
Yes.
Okay, so I will get my license.
Yes.
Okay. It felt conflicting for just a second, the two of you.
But you were talking about other
Yeah.
boards, is that right?
Other boards.
Yeah, one or the other,
But
Yeah.
regardless, pending won't be an automatic.
it's not
you
an
can't
automatic,
renew.
no.
That feels.
We'll take a look
fair,
at
right,
it,
due
and
process.
we may, and then you'll get your due process,
Yeah.
by the time that even goes through, probably have the license.
Yeah.
anyway.
This is now, I think part of it too is like we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Complaint processes at all, so we don't know the process. So that's our
Understood.
ignorance.
Yeah. Okay. Are we done with renewal requirements? I mean, just this part, just the, not the CE part. Just the
So
18 and 19.
this is Mel. We have several pathways to become a licensed. Several of the pathways do not require current RIV certification or credential. Because there's those alternate pathways, but we do have one or two that does require, like the BEI and that. So if that is your pathway, do we need to call that out here? Like that you are current? Or no?
This is a management standing, so we can't do that. Because
I
it's a
didn't
private
hear what you
entity.
Huh?
I did not hear what was said.
Okay. Because there's some pathways that do rely on my credential to get my license. So for renewal purposes, do I need to attest or show that I still have that credential?
I can add it.
Because it is one of the pathways.
To get a license, applying for one is you're meeting your baseline competency to provide these services. To renew it, we already know that you met those competencies. Now you're just renewing. I'm happy to add. Show the credential.
Yeah, this is Mel. In my interpreter world,
I don't think it's gonna be allowed, but I'm happy to add it and then go from there.
She's
I'm
tired of
pretty
talking
sure I'm
about
gonna get a big red mark,
Interpretation.
but
She's done.
I'm happy to add it. Thank you. Go outside, John. Where?
this is Mel. So in our desire to make a lot of pathways to get people to go to work and not exclude them. I don't want the inverse to happen where people are like, well, you know, in Oregon, you can patch your RIV, your BEI 30 years ago, never stay current, never work again, come to that state and you're good to go. To make me a little anxious.
This is Erin, maybe one way to get around it, because I agree with you, is to, because it sounds like this continuing education thing that we're gonna do next. Maybe that's where we can say, if you hold one of those certifications, just keep that certification up, and you don't have to do any of these other continuing eds. Because you're required to do continuing eds to keep up your certification on those other things, right? So as long as you're doing that, and your certification is, national certification is good to go, that's what you can submit as your continuing ed. And if you don't, then you have to do all these other things.
So it's for this is Mel. So that's for the pathways that aren't with a current credential, a live credential. So if you have a expired credential or one of these other pathways, then we will have a robust CEU. Thank you.
This is Erin, but I think and we need to explicitly state that in the continuing ed.
Let's hit it. Continuing ed. Here we go.
Nope, let's finish renewal. Finish renewal. So you want to have CEs for. Is there an hour, a number for each one?
I thought we were gonna do that in the next thing.
No, that's defining.
Well, no, you're right. We're good. Yeah, we're good. So you don't need to have an active credential to renew. Right? Correct. Nope, we're good. So we're on page 21. New just ideas. No.
No. For our national certifying body, for me to maintain my credential is 80 hours every 4 years. We have every 3 years to renew with our
Good ideas.
HLO, I know. So I was suggesting 80 hours just so that our bodies align with each other, but I'm not good with the math. But there, you know, like, so if to renew with HLO, it's every 3 years, but my national is every 4, I might not have met a certain amount of hours in 3 years. 60 is the math.
This is Erin. I suggest in number 1, where it says to maintain a license to provide sign language interpretation services, the licensee must A, provide proof of current certification as referenced in the numbers before, or B, complete the following minimum continuing education hours every year for each license type.
This is no, I like what Erin said. Is that every year part of statute? Or is that something we could say every 3 years so that it is in line with our renewal?
Yeah, you could change that.
And we should wear.
Erin, I agree. Erin again, I wonder if instead of breaking it out by license, do you want it to be different or can it just be the same for everybody? Or is that too hard for like an in-training license person to overcome? Like, for example, in OHA, whether you're certified or qualified as a spoken language interpreter or you have to do these different categories and there's certain hours in those categories. But it doesn't matter if we're certified or qualified. I think it's the same. And now you can keep me honest. That's true. My memory is me. And so I just want to make this simple and not too complicated.
This is Lori. I would propose we have 60 hours for each 3-year block of time for each license. But I agree. I think we can get rid of laying out each of the license types probably and just say licensee must complete a minimum of 60 continuing education hours every 3 years for each license type.
This is now. And so if we're following what Erin originally said, if I have my current credential and that's good enough, that is 80 hours. So, and for people who actually don't have that current credential, I think there should be 82 every 3 years because they're not.
But the 80 is over 4 years.
But this is not. And they do not have an active credential. And they may or may not have gone, they went through an alternative pathway that is, some would say, not as structured, stringent, rigorous as our national boards. So it might be a way to capture them, to make sure that they're continuing to develop, to putting it out there.
This is Erin. I agree because also people might feel like, why renew my license? And I could just do 60 hours and let this lapse. So I agree with doing the 80, but the question I have is, are all boards requiring 80 hours or is that just for a particular level of certification? Or is that 80 hours no matter whether you do the BEI or the this or the that or the.
This is Amanda. BEI, which she's gonna check on right now, it is the only other one that would probably have any requirements. EIPA doesn't have requirements, et cetera. My question, so I think they should all be the same, all of the different license types in terms of hours, but I think the content might be different. So is that a separate section where we indicate, like, if you're renewing for X license, this is the content, if you're, like, I'm thinking particularly the supervisory license, like their content could be a little bit different than the in-training people, for example, right?
Erin, can you say a little bit more about why you feel like that should be different?
So I think that the supervisory licensed people should have supervisory CEs. Right, like I think that they should have continuing education around supervision, mentorship of people. Whereas generalists and provisional and in training, I don't know that they could, but they wouldn't have to, right? But I think people in a supervisory position should have continuing education in supervising.
This is Caitlin. But how do we know that if I just use my, hey, look, already says I'm still good?
Yeah.
I don't know what works.
Right.
So that part.
This is Erin. I didn't hear anything. You just said Kate.
I'm so sorry. So if I have my RID certification and it's active, I can just give them my RID letter that says, hey, I'm good, and it doesn't tell you what workshops I've taken. Unless you want me to submit my CPU transcripts.
Right. This is Erin. I think that's okay because RID has particular requirements of you to meet CEUs. And so I think we're just assuming that that meets the same thing here, but maybe it doesn't.
Well, I just mean if we're asking our supervisory license holders to say you have to have just done supervisory workshops, I could have taken any other kind of workshop through RID, and RID is still gonna say that I'm fine. So are we going to request a transcript?
This is Mel. RID requires professional studies, general studies, and power privilege. There are already 3 different categories under that. And I think that's.
This is Amanda. I also think that we could say, even if you qualify for your license, you know, because you have your RID, you could, I think we could probably have a rule that says supervisory people should have, I'm gonna say 10 again, and she's gonna yell at me, but that's fine. 10 hours of continuing education in specific to XYZ, right? I think we could say, I would say we have to say that, but.
This is Lori. We're talking about continuing ed requirements for all people, for all licenses, not just when licenses have gone inactive and they're starting from scratch, correct?
No, this is renewal, right?
Just general renewal for anyone who has an active license and they're renewing.
Or an inactive.
Why did I think you were talking about people whose licenses had lapsed?
Because it would, well, that would be required, inactive as well. To renew an inactive license, you have to attest to having your Cs.
And also, I want to speak for Tina Russell and say she does not want to go through everybody's transcripts.
Tina won't.
That's correct.
You might.
This is,
Michael won't either.
this is Mel. So at the beginning of this conversation we had today, we talked about just saying all licensees should have blah, blah, blah. And they were like, we can just couple them together. But if we, I think like, and I agree with like, as a supervisor, if I want to have specialized training focusing on that, do we pull one license out and keep it up? You know what I mean? Like we have some flexibility here. This is just the rough draft to go off of. And then like the sign language and training licenses, they're in school and active in school, so they probably shouldn't have CEU. They're paying for their classes, right? Like they're actually a student at this time. So like if coursework is actually, we are still in a program. Unless we have defined what sign language and training license holders are, do you have to be actively in a program? Or does it just mean you're not taking money yet? Or like, we haven't actually defined that. There's a little bit of hesitant to kind of lump this all together.
Erin, that's a really interesting point, because that makes me think about the in-training license. You're not gonna renew for that. It's only get it once, right? And so, once you're done with that, then you have to apply for one of these other ones.
It can be renewed on a case by case basis. We really can't make decisions on that until after.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we can.
Okay. This is Erin. Maybe we should wait until after September.
This is Amanda. I mean, one of the lists in Number two, the list of like what could count. Accredited institution of higher education is a potential offering, right? So their coursework, to me, their coursework would count towards their.
I'm not talking about this.
But any coursework could count for anyone. I mean, you can translate it to CEUs and get another transcript. I do think we want the same hours for everyone, the same number of hours.
Do we need to stop because Sammy's not here to take notes?
This is mountains.
You can continue discussing it. But it's important. She won't catch up on the document. She'll feel bad.
She's back.
So this is Erin. Would it make sense instead of listing out these different topics, 'cause I know this is just a rough draft, but have it be more aligned with what already exists for continuing education requirements for the various certifications? I mean, I know that not everybody's gonna get certified, but I'm just trying to, again, simplify it so that, because right now, I'm certified nationally and they have their own categories and then Oregon has their own categories and sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't, and it's such a pain.
Yeah.
So if there is some sort of congruency between the various certifications that exist in terms of what those requirements are, can we just stick with those?
Focus on where you're going. Where am I going to find these requirements? I'm just gonna reference them.
So this is Erin. I don't know if that expertise already exists in this room, and that's what I was wondering if people already know if that's what that is with them. But I guess would it just be RID and BEI? That be the only two that Sammy would look at in terms of CEU requirements?
This is Mel. Sammy, I will email you the BEI right now.
And this is, Amanda, it is slightly different in terms of the categories than RID, but it's still 20 hours.
This is Caitlin. So speaking from the the K-12 interpreter, we're required to do 12 years or 12 hours per year. So if we're requiring 80 for every 3-year cycle, that's more than doubling what we currently are required to do.
The ODU moves that from their.
Right, no, I understand that they removed it, but I'm just going based on what I know. Yeah, my team, we do 12 hours every year. And now we have to more than double it. And while we've got some free, some not, our PD money can only cover so much. So I'm just a little screwed up.
This is Mel. Hear you and thank you for bringing that point. And it's that long-term goal for educational interpreters is to become a generalist. This might kind of help foster that skill development so that they're eligible to become that generalist. So I see it, there could be a benefit to that investment, so that it's a natural way to mentor and to bolster them so that they meet that benchmark. Potentially, I know there's a cost of that.
I'm not saying scrap the whole thing. I think 20 hours a year, so 60 hours rather than the 80, feels more reasonable.
This is Christine, we're even doubling to 24 seems much more reasonable, but it will be hardship.
Yeah.
Mel, I just want to go back to what Erin was saying. As the Wild West of Oregon that we already have national reputation for, I guess there's an incentive for people to keep their credential active with their national board. But if people see an avenue not to, and it's just 8 hours, I think consistency might be beneficial as well.
This is Amanda, say that last part again.
Just having the same hours for everything. But
This is Amanda, but what if that number was 60? Versus 80 for 3 years, so 20 a year.
Okay. And this Caitlin, what if? So if I have 4 years to keep up my RID certification, so I have 4 years to get PD done. Maybe I don't do any for the first 3 years and I just get a free renewal, free license renewal. And then I just do all of my PD that last year.
This is Lori, that would be bad planning.
It would, no, I agree. And
That's
I
the
know people
choice.
do it. Yeah, I know that it happens.
So this is Erin. I think, addressing that equity issue and also knowing that, as spoken language interpreters, we don't get paid as well as sign language interpreters. I think consistency of having to meet that 80 hours. So I think I'm okay with saying 60 instead of 80. And,
This is Amanda. I also, I want things to count for both RID and Oregon. But I don't know that I think, like going back to what you were saying, Caitlin, I still think everyone should submit their transcripts and have 60 hours, not just their valid RID credential, right? Like, if we're saying that 60 hours over 3 years is important, that doesn't match RID's 4-year cycle of 80 hours, right? So everyone should have to submit that they have 60 hours in their 3-year period of renewal time.
This is Mel. I'm gonna be the stinker in the room. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, educational interpreters get paid in professional development. Independent contractors do not.
Yep.
Right? So there is that piece, they get paid in time. So while I hear that, I also, and this can be an avenue to get things changed within that system as well, because there's now a newer requirement. And I will go back to, again, like, I'm really not happy with losing the educational license and the incentive to get the 4.0 on the EIPA. And this might be a way to bolster the skill set that we need for interpreters working with, school-age children. It can be an avenue for a lot of things. And as also, that's one point. Second point, I hold several credentials. I have my legal credential with the judicial department that I have to monitor. I have to monitor RID. I have to monitor my medical one with the Oregon Health Authority, and to have a 4th different timeline. You guys, that's a lot. I would rather see a way to streamline all of these so that there's gonna be some oversight and people missing things. If there's 4 different bodies, that they're all different timelines for renewal.
This is Christie. I absolutely agree with trying to grow the skills, and I agree with that about educational license. I also know we have lots of conversations about keeping this fairly broad so that we don't weaken. And I just want to clarify, at least in my area, educational interpreters do not get paid PD. It is outside of their workday, and they potentially could apply for reimbursement. But it's a first come, first serve when the pot's gone, and that is full. The pot is for all classified, which is what they are. So if they don't get in a reimbursement, early on, they don't get it. So I just want to clarify that educational interpreters don't necessarily get paid.
Thank you. No, and it seems like that's district by district or service area by service area.
I'm sorry, you guys, I have to step out for a legal meeting. So I will hopefully be back and still be in one piece.
This is Amanda. I just want to say too that I think that this is going to be kind of like what we were talking about before, going from unstructured to structured. I do think that there's going to have to be, or there will be, a narrative change that has to happen in our field, and that's not just in Oregon, that's wide, of paying for CEUs, investing in your career, those kinds of things. That is just uncommon for us right now. And that has to have been true of other professions too. So we're just in this weird, we're in this tough spot of like, I've never had to do that before. Yep. But remember how we're trying to professionalize and be licensed, and that comes at a cost, literally a cost.
Erin, what do you think about starting with 60 hours and then when they, because I think I heard Sammy say that in 5 years you have to review the rules again, then maybe considering bumping it up to a higher number, or maybe you are agreeing with 60 this whole time.
Oh, I'm good, yeah, I'm good with 60.
Okay,
This is Amanda, I'm good with 60 because it seems that the standard in other bodies is 20 hours a year. That seems to be the standard, is 20 hours a year, so I'm good with 60. I get the rationale of 80 for Mel, I totally get the rationale for that. I don't disagree, I just wonder if 60 is a starting point.
This is Mel. I think, I too can go with 60. I think telling our feral cats of interpreters of the state of Oregon that they have to do 20 a year, and we're putting, now we are dictating to an independent contracting field, which is a new shift for us. They've had 40 years always to do whatever dance they wanted to do to get their CEUs. And now we're kind of dictating that it's now an annual.
well, this is Erin, I thought we were gonna remove that every year and just say you must do it within 3 years, so people could wait for the last minute, do their 60 hours at the last minute. I thought we
Yeah.
decided to
Yeah.
remove that, so it isn't
Yeah.
so strict.
Thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
And this is Amanda, I mean, in terms of your desire to have all the timelines aligned, I'm real sorry that I don't know why 3 was chosen in the new one, as opposed to 4, when the cycle 4 in RID, which is the larger group. I don't know what the cycle is for BEI. It was 5 years. So, yeah, I mean, the more credentials you hold, the more you have to monitor timelines. I mean, because some of them are also outside of interpreting, like I have credentials outside of interpreting that I also, so it just is. I know you're giving me side eye, I see it. Okay. I caught it.
This is Lori. It's still better than having to do it every year, which is how it
Yes.
originally was.
Yeah.
So this is Erin, so it sounds like we've decided on, we're gonna do, if you can either renew your certification if you have it, and that'll meet the continuing ed requirements, or you need to do 60 hours within those 3 years. And then now we have to decide what those categories are. And it sounds like Mel is sending BEI categories to Sammy to look at. Does someone need to send the RID categories for her to look at as well? And then is she just gonna decide based on that? Or do we wanna look at these different categories? Do we wanna look at that information in the categories that have been drafted and help give her an idea of what we're thinking?
This is Mel. I think we should tell Sammy exactly what we want.
This is Amanda. Mel, can you just say the categories for BEI? Because we've said the RID ones are professional, general, and power, privilege, and oppression.
And I'll clarify for people that don't know our board. Professional means it has to be language, has to be about that culture, has to be about a theory and process, it has to be professional to the act of interpreting and the community we work with. This is RID. And then general studies can be general studies. How to run a business, do a book club, any of that. And then the power, privilege, and oppression is more defined, not as well versed in that, but
It's
that
not
is,
well defined. Definition.
they define it.
There is a definition.
It is about like addressing systemic oppression, marginalization of communities, that type of stuff.
So Erin, are there any requirements for like hands-on skills classes, like performance-based?
This is now, no, but generally people like that kind of class, and that would be under professional studies, because it's the act of interpreting, the practice of interpreting.
This is Amanda. I would also say that RID has those 3 categories, but they're not equally weighted. So power, privilege, and oppression is a 10-hour requirement. General studies, I wanna say is a 20-hour program. I feel like, and the remaining of the 80 hours is professional. So the professional is the bigger chunk.
I'll send that to Sammy. For BEI, that Ms. Smith has asked for, Ms. Delion to read, is at least 6 CEU hours, 60 CEU hours in interpreting related topics. At least 20 hours in ethics related topics, and no more than 20 hours in general studies. All to equal 100 in a 5-year period.
This is Erin, did you just say 100?
And this is Mel, I will just report that how BEI and RIU both count that is 1 CEU equals 10 hours. So oftentimes you will see 10 CEUs, that's actually 100 hours, or 8 CEUs, which is actually 80 hours.
I'm on this is Sammy, the RID's website, and they have certification and maintenance program, and then RID Continuing Education Center. I don't see anything that you were saying, but I can be on the wrong page.
Mel's finding it.
See, yes. Click here, click here. Just keep clicking.
This is Amanda. It's not a very friendly website.
Like I should just log in.
I know, if you log in, it tells you.
So Erin, are we taking an actual break for lunch at some point?
Okay.
Sorry, it's
Well, we can take
Courtney
another
on.
break.
Squeaky, squeaky, squeaky.
15, okay. Do you want to take 15?
Maybe, I think I need to charge my car, and I was gonna take it.
Take a 15. And I can, maybe Mel can find the website so we can explain.
Is that okay with everybody, or do you want to first?
This is now for professional studies, you need
So 60.
60 hours.
Send it to me.
Well, the problem is, this is Amanda, she logged into her account to get that breakdown because the website is so unfriendly.
Right.
We'll find it.
So we're on break or? Okay, back in. Yeah. 12:35.
What I have so far is to maintain a license to provide sign language interpretation services. The licensee must hold an active credential or certification for to obtain 60 hours of continuing education within the 3-year renewal cycle.
And so then little A, B, C, D just kind of went away because it's all of them.
And this is for all of them, all licensees?
This is Erin, do we need to be more specific about the credential or certification? You just said those words.
That's really what you guys said, so.
Can you refer back to like the previous lists?
Sure. Let's pick what list.
This is Amanda. Is it relevant that there's only two that even keep current? Like, if we refer back to the list, not everything on that list has a currency status. Only BEI and RID do.
Then you probably want this, just those two.
That's what I'm saying.
This is Erin. Are you, I want to make sure I'm on the same page, so are you saying just refer back to the path to credential? It's on page 12. That's only BEI and RID. And NAD.
Oh. Oh, yeah, Dave said that. Yeah. Yeah, I guess then, yeah.
Erin, does that make sense, Sammy?
It does. I don't believe any of them are considered active, except the RD and the CDI, maybe the BEI, but all the other ones are just recognized. I don't know if they're still maintaining active status. They don't.
This is Caitlin, so I think all the ones under pathway 2, RID and NAD, correct me if I'm wrong, are under the same thing, so SLI and RID. certification.
I guess it's the same. What I'm trying to say is you don't like renew your RID certificate of interpretation.
Right.
So it's not going to be in active status. Unless I'm missing.
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
Or
This is Amanda, I'm trying to think of what my portal looks like. I think my CICT is still on there for renewal, even though I have an NIC. But so your CIC is there. But some of these don't, like your CSC maybe.
So this is, the RID credential to be valid, you have to pay a membership fee as well as stay current with. So even though the test is no longer available, our membership and credentialing status to be current, both those have to be true. I have to pay a membership fee and stay current with my CEUs. And then I can say I am already certified. And I don't even have to name out what test I took to say that. I can say I have a national credential.
This is Erin, so would it make sense just to say, under this continuing ed section, and say have a current RID or DEI certification? Credential.
This is Amanda. Is it not just simpler to say, show us proof of your 60 hours?
Caitlin, I thought that we didn't want to make Tina look at all of our transcripts.
We would have them attest to the credentialing.
Okay.
Or to the
60 hours.
CEUs.
Okay.
And then we do have a process where we have our qualifications. We'll send out a letter saying, you attested to this, please provide us what it is. It's a random selection.
Cool.
I have a question, this Bob. For the in-training license, are they gonna be able to obtain 20 hours a year or 60?
This is Mel, we're not allowed to talk about that until January 1st.
No, September.
September.
We can talk about it. Yeah,
This
this decision, but.
This is Amanda. Yes, because they're in school. Like they're that one is probably gonna be the easiest to earn because they're in class. It won't be an RID transcript. I mean, it won't be like that, but it'll be like their course transcripts.
Okay, and then the provisional as well.
Provisional will be.
Will they be able to obtain?
Yeah. Yeah. This is Amanda. So from a processing standpoint, is it not just easier to say 60 hours? Attest to 60 hours in the last 3 years?
My question, and I see Derek's online, and I don't know if he has a question, I see Tina's there too. Is it doable? Is
Right.
would be our biggest concern.
You mean to earn those many hours?
Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, easy, easy.
This is Erin, but if I have already renewed my RID or my BEI, why would I approve also my 60 hours? Like, could that just be less people that the HLO has to verify that they've done their continuing ed? Because if they just show proof, I'm still certified in RID or BEI, they're done, we know they've done their CEUs. That way I only have to deal with verifying the CEUs for everybody else.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I know.
This is Amanda. I mean, I think yes, except that we're spending all the time trying to figure out how to even word the thing about my credential, because the credentials are not equal. And they don't cover the same thing, and some are 4 years, and some are 5 years, and some are, right? So like, it feels easier, especially because regardless of where I am in my cycle for RID, I can print a transcript of my CEUs. It's not even hard.
This is Erin, that's true, but maybe we're saying the same thing, that to me, it's simpler just to say that one option to meet the continuing ed requirements is that I just prove to you that my certification with RID or BEI is active or current. So whatever that looks like, if that looks like a transcript, or if it just looks like a screenshot showing yes, and that implies I've done my CEUs, but I think that's what I'm assuming, is that it'll just be a screenshot showing that according to RID or BEI, I am good to go. I'm still active in this particular moment.
This is Mel.
And that way you don't have to submit the whole transcripts.
And this is Mel. The only reason I thought we might want to do a CEU is that we do these different topic areas. And the CEUs is what shows that. But what I'm hearing is we're just testing that anyways. And if I somehow randomly win the bingo audit, I have to show the actual topic.
Yeah, and I thought I saw, correct, this is Bob, and I thought I saw something in there where they have to, I'm skipping again, sorry. Where they have to maintain evidence of the CUs for
8.
For 4 years. Is that what you're going after?
4 years following.
This is Mel asking for a friend. I can go back into my RID transcripts, how many years, like?
I think a while.
Okay.
Definitely 4.
Okay, yeah.
And I think, this is Bob, HLO attempts to do the audit the following year. So we're not asking them
Open up
to,
against that.
yeah, we're not running up against a wall of them. Oh my gosh, that was 3 years ago. Where did I put it?
Mhm.
This is Erin, are you doing the audit only of people who are saying that their credential is up to date, or everybody?
It's a random, I have IT pulls a random selection of application numbers for individuals and sends it to qualification. The qualifications sends out the letters to the folks that are being audited.
But this is Erin, isn't this, we're talking about renewing. So if I'm renewing my license, I need to prove that I've met the continuing education requirement. So haven't I already submitted? If I don't have a certification for RID, am I only doing, are you saying that we're only doing these attestations for either one?
Right.
Okay, that's interesting. And then, so, okay, I'm catching up.
So, this is Bob, let me give you a big picture. So Michael, he's our licensing specialist that does the sign language interpreters. He also has, respiratory therapy and polysomnography. They have CEs also. So I mean, he would get nothing processed if he had to review classes and transcripts, like he does for one of our other courses. Sexual treatment providers, they send in their transcripts. He has to go through those, I believe, because I know we have questions about them all the time. So he has to look at what the training was to renew their license, or even to approve their license, initial licensure. So, yeah, we're, with as many license types that we have, about 80-ish thousand, we never did that. People would be waiting for a license or a renew. So we have them attest, then we do the random selection for CE audits, qualifications, looks at, sends the information out to them and they provide it to the licensees. We send a letter out, they provide us what we've requested. Then they review it and then it's checked off and they get notified that they're good to go.
Thank you.
I was waiting to see if Derek's hand was going to come up, but it's not. So it must be on the right track. We'll go with Bob's on that. The gallery doesn't need to giggle so loud. This is Bob.
I've listed all the credentials referencing supervisor and generalist, but there's no credentials for provisional. So would they just not be on that line? Would just be the two?
Amanda, if provisional can renew twice.
What is this now? Say that
Yeah,
again
just-
and why?
Yeah, they would just,
Provisional, in their pathway, they don't have a credential that we want. They take a lead CASLE knowledge or EAPA performance or the BEI basic, but no credential, just exams, a degree or education and training. In the proficiency.
so yeah, they would just have to do their 60 hours. Page 22. Under little b self-study, big B. Audio cassettes. I am a little. I mean, I don't want to exclude the valuable cassettes that we still have of interpreting material. But perhaps we could just include audio material such as podcasts, which we do have as a CEU option.
Want to add detail?
This is Erin, you can just say audio.
Yeah. Audio material, whatever you want to call it.
Actually,
This is Erin, though, are we done now with the actual things on page 21 in terms of like the different categories? I thought we made our recommendation statement about what those categories should be. And we've got 2A through N. Are we done with that conversation already? Would we made a decision?
no.
So this is Amanda, for two. Just kidding, hold on. Yeah, 2 and the thing Caitlin was just talking about. Do we need to be that detailed? I mean, like,
Well, this is Mel. Go through these section by section as we can. Exactly. Yes, I like it. So continuing education, so we might want to follow what's already out there, professional standards, ethics. And then, on general studies,
What do I see? Just one general, that's a spot.
it's not there, you don't see it. It's a more broad topic.
So we're gonna keep A and B. Okay.
So when we say, so professional studies of interpreter-related topics are in interpreter-related topics. Ethics-related topics. Then in general study topics.
What does general studies look like?
This is Mel. Typically, it can mean anything. It means, like that was the book club. And that's like how I run my business, how I, you know,
Business practices.
business, if you want me to define.
Well,
general
I'm
studies.
asking because if it comes up, the question's gonna get raised and it's better to answer it now.
So this is Amanda. I wonder if we could look at RID. But the idea is the idea is kind of like nothing is wasted on an interpreter because you could end up interpreting that content anywhere or anything. So like literally anything could go into general studies. It's a training or an approved PINRA, which is the individual study kind of process and that sort of thing. So, but you would get CEUs for it through RID or through something like that. Like I wouldn't just say to you like, my neighborhood has a book club and I'm counting that, like not that.
I couldn't find specific on general studies.
Oh, you couldn't?
Because Erin, but I mean, if I don't have RID, if I don't have RID certification, how do I prove, maybe I did go to my library thing, like, how am I gonna prove that?
I think,
Because
this
it's
is
not gonna be approved ahead of time by RID, is what I'm gonna say, how do you
Right.
still count the things that are?
Amanda, you don't.
Mel. Trying to think.
Are they able to, this is Bob, are they able to articulate it that I did? So one of our other programs, they can articulate stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
read
yeah,
this,
for
I
sure.
read that, I attended this seminar, or I watched this video on YouTube.
So this is Mel. I think part of this conversation I haven't heard yet is how many hours per category. So, sorry. So like professional studies, because it has to be in the topic and interpreter related topics is your biggest thing, right? Like that's gonna be like if we're doing 60 hours, that's 40 hours or 20 hours. And then ethics is 10 hours. And then general studies, which can be Mel learns how to play chess, because I might be interpreting for chess club, is less hours. They are weighted in all of the bodies that we look at, the BEI and RID.
This is Lori. I'm gonna say largely because they do that, we don't need to do that. My position would be, right now it reads, you must address subject matter related to at least one of the following domains. I say, leave it at that. I think we're making things too complicated the more nitpicky we get. And the more difficult we're making it for the people who are looking at these applications.
So, can you see where you said that again? I'm sorry. Is that number
Two.
two?
On 21-2, yeah.
So that's subject matter relating to at least 3 of the following domains then.
Cool.
But keep all of the little a through whatever.
And then,
No, I
No.
wanna keep it professional standards and define it,
Yeah.
ethics and define it, general studies and define it.
This is Amanda that I'm in.
The other piece though that I wanna come back to is I do wanna call out additional specialty hours for supervisory that are specific to being a supervisor and that we built that in.
So you do one separate for each license.
This Caitlin, I think just for
Sammy,
supervisor.
can you repeat that?
One separate for each license type. Provisional doesn't have the credential piece, so they wouldn't, they have their own. Generalists will be supervisors, so they'll have their own, and supervisors will be supervisors, and they'll have theirs.
this is Lori, can they not all be the same and can we include supervisory stuff under the general list? But then under supervisory say that they must have some number of hours of supervisory stuff.
Yeah, it'll be in the same area.
And then just otherwise leave everything the same.
So this is now. So like A would look like supervisory license will have 10 hour, like hours of supervisory training for 20 hours in 3 years. Is that where you would say that, Sammy? Or where would you call that out? Or would that be under the application?
No, it'll be here.
And I think the interpret or the supervisory hours would actually be under professional studies, professional standards. And not general. It's harder to get. It might be-
Can we, the spot, would it be fair just to say the supervisor must have X number of hours?
Supervisory related topics.
Topics, yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of calling them out, because when we go to look at them, or when they provide it to us, is it going to say, these are supervisory?
Yeah.
topics?
Do you want it to be hours of the 60 or an additional?
Of the 60s, this is Amanda, of the 60s.
I'm waiting, hold on.
This is,
Of the 60.
for consistency's sake, for us, we'll learn it, but it's, it may be a lot, there's a lot going on here.
So they're in. Maybe we've already figured this out, but number 2, 60 hours of continuing education for the licenses of this rule must address subject matter related to at least 3 of the following domains. And we decided that we're gonna put that 60 hours written into number 2.
Where do you have it? Amanda, where do you have it, Sammy?
You guys we're jumping around, so I'm not exactly sure where. I was trying to finish supervisory. But I added 3,
Aaron, this is Mel. I think A would be 60 hours. B, oh, we're pulling those out. They're bringing us at 60 hours. A, B, and C would say 60 hours.
But they're all gone.
But then,
No, Amanda.
oh, this is Mel. We also then said, but we want to have professional studies, ethics, and GS. And that the supervisory one is going to be different because it has to have supervisory. Therefore, we have to explicitly say what each one is.
This is Amanda. Sammy, can you read us what you have for number 1?
Maintain a supervisory license. By family services, the licensee must A, hold an active credential listed in the number, or 60 hours of continuing education within a 3-year period, 3-year renewal cycle, and of the 60 hours listed in the, you never said how many.
For 3-year period.
So this is Aaron. I think I'm on number 2. Y'all are on number 1. So it sounds like we're keeping the 1A, 1B, 1C. Okay, I wasn't
I
following
didn't,
that.
yeah, I didn't either. I expected Sammy to say something different. I should read number.
When we are differentiating that supervisories have to have a specific type of hours, then we have this. Hold on.
Gotcha.
And it can be quick, small, and tight. Okay. And-
You're right.
Yeah, and I think for 3-year period for supervisory license, I would say 20 hours of my 60, which would also be my professional studies, so they could double dip there. You know what I mean? They count for that.
This is Aaron, just to clarify. You're saying that the supervisory license, we need to make sure that they're having some sort of mentoring CEUs, right? And you're putting that under professional standards. In addition to other things. So how would we make sure that they get a certain number of hours of that supervisory piece?
I think we're saying the same thing.
Okay,
I'm saying, so there's 3 buckets. Professional, I'm gonna call it studies, I don't like standards. Professional studies, ethics, and general studies. And so I know I have to have whatever number we say of professional studies. The supervisory ones are professional studies. That is my specialty. That is gonna be my professional studies. And that's how I know I'm gonna get it. Because in that bucket, that's what that's gonna be. And I also take my ethics and I can do general studies.
So professional studies is defined as supervisory thing only and nothing else.
No, it can be a lot of things, but under professional, because it's interpreter related topics. So this is, it has to be interpreter, ASL interpreter supervision. So it would qualify for that.
So because there, so I think that if you put lots of things under, if I'm understanding you, if you put lots of different things under professional standards, it could be that I do all those other things, but I don't ever actually get that mentoring and supervisory piece that you really want to make sure I get as a supervisory licensed interpreter. And so I think that's what we have to call that out completely separately from everything else, to make sure that they definitely do 10 hours or whatever the designation is of that particular category.
This is Bob, I'm following along. A sign interpreter license, X number of hours. And 10 must be with supervision or under supervision. Maybe we can put it on that one line.
This is now like, for me, for my legal credential under RID, I have to have my 20 hours of professional studies. I'm gonna say 60 hours of professional studies. 20 of them have to be. They have to have a special designation. And then, but you're saying you have to have a special designation of supervision.
Right, because Aaron, I agree, I just think you gotta, if you lump everything under one thing, but you actually, under that one thing, you wanna make sure they get a certain number of these.
You have a different.
You have all these other options, and they may just like, I'm gonna do 20 of all those, and yeah, this is in that, but I'm not required.
Right.
You know, I think we're saying the same thing, you just have to make sure that they're getting those hours in that particular category.
Because I could also give 40 hours of supervision. And that extra will then count for my professional studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Do the people that hold the active credential, and that's what they're attesting to, do they have to have an additional 60 hour, an additional some number of hours of supervision? Yeah.
This is Amanda, I don't know that they need to be additional, but they need to have the supervision hours.
Within the 60 and
Right.
What you're saying is the active credential is what they're attesting to. We're not seeing how, we're seeing their active.
Oh, well then, yes. I'm sorry, then
So
yes,
active
she's
credential
plus.
and 10 hours of supervision.
however many.
This is not for 80 hours. Do we know how many are professional studies for our? I think it's 6, isn't it?
So 60.
And PPOs 2.
This is Amanda. But we're still saying 60 hours in these 3 buckets. We're not defining 4 here, 12
We are
here.
defining.
Oh, we are gonna define. I thought we weren't gonna define because it was confusing.
Oh, wait, Lori said because it's defined by our RIB and CDI, we shouldn't have to. But we want to define for superintendent. These may not just see what they're. For the people that don't have.
Oh.
Right, because there's people that have just the EIP 4.0, they're not. In our.
Good point.
This is Lori, but then we're still requiring 60 hours of those folks.
We're just defining their buckets. Where they have to get those 60 hours. So have to
That's
be
the part I don't like. I don't like being that. Like, in my opinion, you have to do 60 hours. It has to be related to sign language interpreting. That's gonna grow your skills. It's for the supervision piece, supervisory piece, I think that's important that we call that out specifically and say you need to have 10, whatever, hours in directly related to supervision of your group. Beyond that, personally, I don't care. But, and I think the more nitpicky we get, the more confusing this whole process gets for people, and it's already just a nightmare for people to understand. It's a nightmare for us to understand, and we're in all these meetings. And for us to try to retain, well, I need to have 4 hours in this area, 6 hours in this area, I just think it's yes.
This is Amanda. So then the thing I think I would say is borrowing from BEI, because the only place where your argument breaks down, Lori, is if I got all 60 hours in general studies, I haven't studied anything about interpreting. So there needs to be a limit on the general studies, and I think BEI said not more than X can be in general studies or something like that. So because I agree with you in terms of like professional studies and ethics, knock yourself out, study as much as you want in whatever categories you want, I don't really care. But you can't get all 60 hours in general studies.
But to me, and maybe we're defining things differently, but to me, general studies is still directly related to interpreting. If we make it so, and maybe RID doesn't, maybe they say, well, you can take a ceramics class and that counts as
They do.
continuing
Yeah,
ed.
They do.
So maybe that's
Because
our
nothing's
issue,
lost
is
on
we
an
need to
interpreter.
define that all of these topics that we have listed have to be directly related to sign language. If you don't have BEI or RID licensure, all of your training needs to be directly
Kind of like that.
rather than assigning hours.
Sarah, so maybe a similar compromise, we could do general studies, but what about ethics? Like, is that something that we definitely want to pull out? And we definitely want people to take, or is there any other category that we want to make sure that people definitely take? I'm just speaking from the spoken language side, because we have to at least take ethics, and then like, we do have more categories, but ethics is like, there's a certain number of hours of ethics we always have to take, and I don't know if that's something that we also want sign language interpreters to be required to do too. And then have the rest of it be general, unless you have a supervisory license, in which case you have a certain number of hours in that category.
This is Mel, and I agree with everything you said, except for it's not general. It has to be professional studies. That's our language, I would say. So what I heard Lori say is, if you do not have a current credential through RID and BEI, then you have to have your 60 hours be professional studies. And within those professional studies, 5 have to be ethics, and if you hold your supervisory, it has to be 20, or something like that. Because that's for the big group of people that we have that might not have had professional training, that don't have their, whatever, they don't have it, that piece. And that does also aid in trying to pull up the skill level for our provisional interpreters to get to general. Because if we left it that they can do chess class, and that's what they chose to do, that's not our end goal, which is to pull the skills up. So it says the general, we say it has to be professional interpreter related. And for those of us who are in a licensing thing that we're paying extra money over here, good for us, all of that's just taken care of. And we can do general studies over there.
This is there, and that's what they mean, if everybody agrees to that.
What was that?
So that sounds great to me, as long as everybody else agrees to that.
This is Amanda. I have a question for HLO people, I think, in terms of data. At some point in the future, would we be able to know how many people use which pathways to get credentialed? So that we know how many people we're talking about, like if 99% of the people are RID certified, and then we can know, not necessarily who, like Sally, Joe, and whoever, but like 4 people get this pathway. Like, is that the level of data we could get at some point of which pathways they use to get their license?
Not sure.
Okay.
I know.
Not what we're.
So our system's being updated.
Gotcha.
I don't know what, if we document each piece that we get and
Yeah.
what it is from whom.
Yeah.
It's, trying to streamline the process. I get why some stats are, important, but I don't know if we can if we would even be able to pull that out.
This is Amanda, because I mean, obviously we want to cover everybody, but I also think like, what if we're creating this huge bucket and it's 4 people and they already have these things? Then, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, not individual case by case, but like,
I think the spot, I think if having the bucket broad.
Yeah.
Yet applicable. Why not? You know, and if we need X number to be under one thing or the other, then, call it out.
This is Erin. Do we need to define what professional studies means? If so, where will that go? And what is the definition?
There's a page called definition. Just now. Where we will define.
this is Amanda, well, if you read a definition for BEI,
Professional interpreter related topic.
which is really broad.
So then, is there, why don't we just say interpreter related topics instead of professional studies?
This is Caitlin. I think most of these little letters would qualify as our topics / professional studies, would they not?
This is Amanda, yes, but not comprehensive, and I'm not sure we want to be that detailed.
That's why I want to get rid of it.
So, and then I guess my other follow-up to Aaron's is one of the rationales to use professional studies is that it's already the term used in our field. So if we put in the Oregon law, interpreting related things, will people think it's something separate? I have to do something different than RID and BEI who call it professional studies?
This is Erin, that's true, I like the enlightenment, and people who don't get those certifications and don't know that language, I think we should have both, so I think you should say professional studies, including interpreter related, which means interpreter related. So that you have both.
Yeah.
Wondering if RID already spells it out.
I was looking, I can't find it, but on my phone. This is Amanda, but we're getting rid of general studies, right?
Correct.
As a bucket. So we're having professional studies, which is interpreting related topics, and ethics, and supervision.
This is Erin, do we want to designate the number of, are we saying like 10 hours for supervision, 5 hours for ethics, and then, or 6 hours, do you need an each number, I don't know, and then a number of hours for professional, we can spell it out.
This is Mel. I think what we said is, let's say you have to have 50 hours of professional studies. And if you have your supervisory license, 20 of those have to be supervision related topics.
Okay.
You have 10 hours of ethics. Because the ethical piece, the 10 hours or 1 CEU ties into our PPO for our national credential, so it would be behoove us to have some crossover with that.
Okay.
Is for the supervisor, 60 hours and then an additional 20 for the supervisor part? So 60 hours and of that, 10 of it's supervisor related.
You said 20?
20. That's actually, this is talking to Ms. Smith. So after professional studies, it's still 60 hours, it's not a different bucket, it's those 20 hours of supervisory is in that bucket, but we have to call it out.
And this is Amanda, and it's up to the interpreter to track that. Like if you have a supervisory license, I expect you to know that you need 20 hours of that.
Right, this is now, when we look at our RID and it says legal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tracked under professional studies. I mean, it
Yeah.
has like a third column or
Right.
second column that's earmarked as legal.
Right.
Under the supervisor, of the 60, you just want 20 for supervisor, do you want 10 for ethics, 5 for this? What is your, out of the 60? Is there another?
This is not, I think we agreed on 10 hours of ethics, that year period.
related to interpreter related topics.
Well, this is not, getting my math. We're saying 60 hours. It can all be perfect, it's all interpreter related, it's just like, within that bucket, 10 is ethics.
You're good.
Nope, I'm good.
This is Caitlin. So that means under number 2, instead of doing related to at least 3 of the following domains, you should go back to 1 of the domains.
I don't think we even need to say, continuing education for licensees listed in subsection must control must address interpreter professional study related topics.
This is Erin. I thought we were getting rid of number 2 because under each license, we were already saying that we needed 50 hours of this, and 10 hours of that. So I thought 2 was just gone.
So for this is Sammy, for supervisor, the 60 hours, you have 20 for supervisor training, 10 for the ethics training, is the 30 something else?
Professionals.
Anything else?
Yeah.
This is Erin. Are we gonna say professional studies
Related to interpreting.
related to interpreting?
And then what would your breakdown for generalists be?
Well, it would be 60 hours. Within those 60 hours of professional studies and interpreter related topics, 10 must be ethics, the remainder is the professional studies.
This is Lori checking in on interpreter. Do we need a break?
We're good because there's some extra.
Thank you. So 10 of ethics and the rest are professional studies? And then what about routine?
This is Amanda, I think the same as generalist. This is Amanda, feel free to tell me we're not allowed to talk about this till September. But the SLI and training license, it's renewed on a case by case basis. They're not really taking continuing education, they're in their initial education. Can we either not include them or say something like actively enrolled in an interpreting program or something like that?
Maybe.
I mean,
That's
yeah.
Erin, I would support, I like that idea.
We're not talking about this. But the only reason I don't want to say enrolled in a program is because deaf interpreters often, the programs aren't designed for them, so it's more ad hoc or it's on the ground training, like workshops that they're taking. So I've been playing around with a supervisor, but playing around with how to separate an SLI in training versus a professional license. Which that could be a piece of it, but also that has to be like, not accepting money for work, I don't know, it's training.
Yeah, and concern, it could say currently participating in interpreter training.
Yeah.
This is not gonna be at all.
This is Amanda, that's what I'm wondering. I don't know, I think 3 is too.
There, and I agree. I mean, I don't know that we care where it happens, just as long as they do it and provide us a transcript.
Just giving them some direction.
This is Erin, do you have this, is it something that HLO requires to have? So that people have a general idea of where they can get it, or can you strike it?
And for number 6, we just want to say every 3 years, that little highlighted right there.
No. Back to page 22, section 4. I think it has to be 3.
Credit hours and ticket benefits of those required for the 3-year reporting period cannot be carried forward. Or is that good? Oh.
Number 7. The last sentence says OAR 816XX, et cetera, describes the evidence a license could use. A license, is it a licensee? Can use as proof of completion of required continuing education. Does that exist, or do we already
It's on the next page.
describe the evidence? That's on the next page? Okay, never mind.
This is Lori. And Sammy, I am remembering very clearly from watching the last board meeting that there was a strong priority item from them that had to do with the trainee license. The in-training license. That was something that we were supposed to deal with. If you remember what that was.
We can't deal with in-training lessons till after.
So I just didn't want to neglect something that we were supposed to.
I think what you might be talking about is, the possible exemption for students and interns. Exemption to licensure. And in January, it's my understanding that interns and students would be getting the in-training. Sure.
So there, can you move forward to page 24?
Lori, it looks like this is all template HLO stuff and doesn't look like anything's relevant if we need to do anything with. Flip.
This is Amanda. It also aligns with all the things one needs to get workshops approved and that sort of thing. So none of it is like stuff you couldn't get. I mean, like it all's reasonable in our field.
It's bottom, yeah, about you look at page 25. Okay.
So Erin, I think we decided instead of saying audio cassettes, we just say audio. I saw it again on page 25.
This is not, did we vote to get rid of section 3 on page 22 though? So audio is gone.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah. But on page 25, it's back.
But I mean, that might
So-
give information so that why we don't need it on page 22. It's on page 25.
So this is Amanda, I just want to include 8mm films and little D. If we're gonna have audio cassettes and VHS, that's missing. What were the? They looked like records, but they played.
DVD,
No, like the big ones. It was like a big disc.
Blu-ray.
Laser discs. Nobody knows that my dad had a laser disc.
You mean CDs?
No, they were big, like a vinyl.
Really doing the public parties feedback, and Sammy catches up.
Oh, yeah.
At this time, the Board of Sign Language Interpreters Rules Advisory Committee will hear public and interested parties' feedback. Public comment is limited to matters on the agenda or topics relevant to what this committee has statutory authority to regulate. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and will not be allowed if they're disruptive to the committee's conduct of business. If you're called to comment, HLO staff will request the public member to unmute themselves. The chairperson and HLO reserve the right to end the person's comment and have HLO staff mute the public member. Comment does not pertain to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this committee has statutory authority to regulate. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? If so, please raise your hand or use the Zoom raise hand feature and wait to be acknowledged.
Amanda, can I ask a question? So you said this was at the request of ORID, they just wanted 2 times for public comment? Or, because at the beginning, I kind of thought there was somebody who had a public comment, but you're saying they just wanted
No,
2
they wanted-
opportunities for it?
Sooner in the meeting.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
I guess it's irrelevant if you spend a long time on the first.
Today it didn't really work out that well, but yeah.
Hard to find.
There's nobody, hands up.
Feels like it.
Let's move on to the generalized, maybe 28. I just changed the 1 to 3 years. And I will change the halfway. Read into that, where the letters come from, I got.
So that it matches. Supervisor.
This is Lori, and Sammy, Christy just texted and said that she's not likely to make it back, given where they are in their litigious meeting right now. But she just doesn't need to share.
Provisional, this next one. 24, line 15, to the new, 2 renewals.
Now, for provision, do we have the ability to say how many?
Can be renewed twice.
So Aaron, under 1 day, I, 30th, 2030, should it say a SLI?
This is Mel. 34 for provisional license. For 1A. Does it indicate remotely or on-site? That says after June 30th, 2030 in SLI.
No. This is Laura, the June 30th, 2030 is clarifying who could supervise.
So as of right now, a provisional license has to be supervised by an SLI. Gosh, my little brain hurts.
Supervisory for generalist currently. And as of June 30th, 2030, Justin is supervisor.
Okay. And like currently, did we define if it can be on-site or remote?
Your one.
This is
Your next one now.
So it's 1B, maybe supervised on-site or remotely. So those little I's above it go under the A. Does that make sense?
And to be a
It is,
provisional,
would be.
currently, this is not. The provisional can work under any setting. Currently, or does that take effect after June? After January.
This is Erin. Do we have enough supervisory and generalist folks to be able to work with generalists, no, to work with provisional people? Do we have enough?
This is Amanda, how
I
many
just don't
provisional
wanna-
licenses are there?
Erin, I just don't wanna create the provisional folks' inability to get what they need to get rid of move up.
There's 14. 1, 4. 1. We're good.
People working under the wafer.
Right, so that does not include people working under the waiver. Right? Right, so they're,
Those are active.
So this is Erin, so people working under the waiver could also supervise provisional. No,
This is Amanda. No, they're saying that there's only 14 people who have paid to get the provisional license. Everyone else who would fit and need a provisional license is currently not getting it because there's a waiver.
okay,
So they're working and don't believe they need a license.
so this is Erin, so since there are only 14 provisionals, then there are probably a lot more generalists and supervisory, so we're not worried about the provisionals being able to get what they need to move up. Okay.
I need to,
How many?
this is Mel, I need to change the subject.
Great.
Okay,
I like it.
So for provisional license, now because the Oregon Department of Ed has clearly stated that they're gonna ensure to be where they point people to what the qualification is to interpret in educational settings. Currently under OD, it says a 3.5 EIPA. Now, under provisional though, it now says we have pathway 3. So we can get anybody who has 40 hours of training to get their provisional. And so if the Department of Ed is saying, we will take a provisional, and it doesn't call out it has to be a 3.5 on the EIPA, I'm saying we have to get rid of pathway 3 for provisional.
This is Amanda. Do we have anyone from, do we have, is George in here? Read her name. Isn't it still the law, 3.5? That was a red that they got rid of.
Erin, what page are you looking at?
37, pathway 3 education and training.
This is Amanda. I just want to point out that that is the pathway for a large number of deaf interpreters to get the provisional.
And reword this.
What page are you on?
Page 37. We have more, it says more. Once the burden of educational interpreting came to HLO, we have to reevaluate things that were different from Senate Bill 9. They changed the whole playing field for many of us who have been sponsoring this licensure. And it hurts me to have to do, but if we don't have an educational license that safeguards deaf children in education and it's only here under provisional, we have to really reevaluate provisional.
This is Amanda. I agree. Clarifying question though, we've dealt with settings in the last meeting, but that's only because of the legacy of the licenses for education, medical, and legal, correct? Like there isn't a reason to have settings defined other than the legacy of those licenses that go till 2029. Is that true? Okay, Sammy's shaking her head or nodding her head. Because I was thinking this setting, because this doesn't say anything about settings. And I don't, do we have it in our purview to limit a setting? As opposed to the qualifications to get?
I don't know.
Now, just gonna comment on that, and then because there's a weird overlap of having those. So I can identify the educational setting for people with educational license. But starting January 1st, 2026, there's a whole group of people that does not apply to, so.
This is Amanda, 100%. I just am not sure if our purview. That's what I'm.
This is Caitlin. I know, after you were trying to make that as an option for our deaf interpreters, but then we opened up other pathways for generalist and supervisory that
Oh, true.
could work through.
True.
And that was part of our reasoning for doing this specific one. So if we can just get rid of
You're right.
pathway C.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Because I know that was the biggest concern. We were like, this is the only
When
thing
we
we
were on
have
provisional,
for
yeah.
deaf interpreters. But now that we have.
Yep.
This, but elevated a little bit.
Yeah, this is Amanda. Thank you for reminding us. Do you guys want me to change? So this is Amanda. Speak for Mel, apparently. You're the one that brought it up first. I think we want to strike pathway 3. Is that true? Is that the right?
I do want to hold space for my educational interpreter peers.
This
Yeah,
is
100%.
Lori, and I have never hired someone who hadn't gone through an interpreter training program and had an EIPA or NIC or RIE. So
Yeah.
I don't anticipate ever, as a provisional license holder, I wouldn't hire someone in that category in all likelihood.
Would Darcy be able to get a license?
Under general.
Darcy could get a generalist for here. Yeah.
This is Mel, Lori, when are you retiring? Can we trust the person who's replacing you? Right, this is.
We're on college record right now.
I just say like, this is for, we have people in place that have years that I respect. We don't know the future us's.
I get it.
And so, and the rural us's, sadly, I mean.
I'm saying I would propose getting rid of it as well. I'm all aboard, and I think there's so much visual noise on the next two
Yeah.
pages that just distracts from everything else, that I say get rid of it.
Yep.
Also,
This is Amanda. Having had the conversation earlier today about the BEI basic, I'm on page 37, counting as equivalent to the NIC. Is the BEI basic appropriately placed in the provisional license? It feels not if it's the equivalent to the NIC.
If, this is Galen, if that is what we have decided that it is equivalent to NIC, then yes, it should be struck from this.
So on page 37, the little eyes, there, Sammy,
Three little eyes.
three little eyes. BEI basic would be stricken.
No. If the world is available to me and we have the power, and the Department of Ed is no longer a partner in this, we could say 4.0. But I mean, we could, or we could say 3.7 and slowly build it up. Right?
This
I
is
mean,
Amanda, we totally could, but this is provisional. This is the get your foot in the door with supervision so that you can get to the generalist, which is a 4.0.
this is now. And this is the pathway that our educational interpreters will be taking.
Yep.
Where they can have 9 years to impact one child, full educational spectrum.
Yep.
From first grade to 10th grade.
Yep.
With 3.5, which we know is 60%, 65% of input, like content, if you look at the charts. So sadly, when Senate Bill 950 happened, and this is where we are at, I don't think we have, I am not willing to let the educational, like that piece go for that long. I don't know.
Erin, but this is provisional and they're gonna always be with someone.
No,
No.
they're not. No.
Oh, the Department of Education still requires the 3.5 EIPA. So we're requiring something higher than what their requires.
This is not a problem.
No.
This is our chance to change the field of educational interpreting. And I know that there is a group of people with educational interpreters that are good till 2029. Right?
Don't even have to pay anything.
And so this is for 9 years. Let's see if my educational interpreter call. This is Caitlin.
Not everybody who is an educational interpreter got their license, therefore are good until 2029.
There's still time. Till 2026.
Yeah, until 26. Okay,
They have to December 31st.
okay, good to know. Pass that along. But if we demand a 3.7 now.
You can always put it in and then if people don't like it, put it back.
This is Erin, so, sorry y'all if I'm slow on getting this, but I thought someone who had a provisional license, it says they can only provide Sunday services under the supervision of the person holding an active supervisory or active generalist license, so.
this is Lori, that means intermittent on-site, checking in, talking about how things are going, getting consultation, getting mentorship. That doesn't mean one-on-one in the educational or wherever setting.
So that would mean somebody who just graduated from that program, who has 50 hours of training, that is now responsible for the next 10 years for a deaf child education.
This is Amanda.
Not responsible for their language.
For access to. So this is Amanda. In support of kind of where Erin was heading though, even if we keep it 3.5, this is still a step up because they will be under supervision. So they will be actively working with someone to improve their skill sets. No, not one-on-one every day, all day. But right now they can have a 3.5 and be out in total nowhere alone entirely with no check-ins, right? But now they will have a 3.5 plus, right? And I'm not opposed to increasing I guess I can see the argument for a 3.7, but if we're gonna go to the data about like this much access to information percentage-wise, no one should ever be working without a 5.0. Because 4.0s are also not sufficient, right? And that's not reality. Because I just wanna say that teachers are not all a 5.0 either, on any scale. They range, right? So, introverts range as well. So I think it's a step up either way, not that I'm opposed to increasing. But I would wonder who then exits and isn't able to get it.
This is Lori. We've had the 3.5 in place for what, 15-ish
A while, yeah.
years now. That is not a reason to maintain it, clearly. 3.5 is not in the best interest of our kids, and clearly, no question about that. Changing that right at this moment would essentially allow existing 3.5 to 4.0ers two EIPA retakes before they're out of a job. And I don't think that the intention of the law, this law to put licensure in place, was to eliminate interpreters from our field. The 9 years,
Yeah.
that's a long time for somebody to get where they need to be. I'm not gonna lie. But it's gonna take some people close to that.
This is Amanda. So the other thing I'm thinking though too is that there is more to interpreting than that number on an EIPA test. Because we can go, I mean, like my research was on the EIPA, it doesn't actually test interpreting skills, et cetera, right? So there's lots of issues with the instrument itself. But I think that having a supervisor who's there to talk to you and available to you to shape and guide the way you interact with that particular kid. Because I think we can all say, we know people with 4.7s who should not be in the classroom, and we have people with a 3.2 who are excellent with that second grader. And they're a great match, and they're getting access and all of those kinds of things. So I'm not sure that this number is the be all end all.
This is Mel. I'll just refocus to I agree, I appreciate what you're saying about supervision. If that is actually, like, if we look at the system of a school district and they're the ones providing supervision and their goal is skill development and working on that. I mean, we could, looking within that system is one thing, I get that. And I just also want to reiterate, Washington and California have had a 4.0 for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And as a state, we are very far behind on upping our EIPA number.
Yeah.
It's gonna be horrible no matter what we do.
Yep.
And we have to do it at some point.
Yep.
And once the Oregon Department of Ed said, we're gonna turn to HLO, and I think I recall Georgiana at one point saying, yes, 4.0 is the goal. I don't think anybody thought 9 years was gonna be the time.
So
When you think of the educational lifespan of a student, that could be technically most of their educational career. And if it's a rural person, they will be with potentially one interpreter for those whole 10 years at this number. This is an opportunity that we might not get again until 5 years when we go in front of the legislature again, or whatever that number looks like. I'm just saying, I get it, and there is an opportunity to get the educational license that will be good for several years.
this is Amanda. So if provisional is 4.0, generalist is what? EIPA taken off of that? It is currently, but that's what I'm saying, if we change this to a 4.0, then generalist becomes what? Because I don't think they should be the same.
You're getting ahead of me. I mean.
I just accepted your premise.
Then
Let's make it 4.0, now generalist as well.
Or does that mean under provisional, the EIPA? I mean, we can keep the 4.0 for generalist, and then.
Then why wouldn't I just get a generalist
Exactly.
and not have a supervision? Not have any supervision. So now I'm a brand new graduate, but I got a 4.0. And I don't have any supervision.
Okay, I can keep that here, and then generalist is
I'm-
something else.
Yeah.
Sammy has said phase no.
We, about 8 to 14 minutes were enough to go back to the public comment and talk about meeting dates. And at the 8/7/2024 board meeting, I took the board, your recommendation. That's right. To basically attest having taken the APA, but you didn't have your scores yet, and they shot that down, and they requested that the RAC look at an EIPA score of 4 or above. That was for the education license. So this, I would think would be the same for provisional, and then allowing for anybody who's already like making a transition gradual.
This is Lori. Can I ask you some clarification on the timeline for the proposed change? Like, let's say we look at a 3.7. That timeline would kick in at what point? Is the proposal?
January 1.
This January, except we have people working under the waiver until 2029.
Well,
So
working
it
under
really
the,
kick in
No,
20
no, no.
working under the
No.
education license.
Nobody is working till 2029 with the waiver. You
If they
have-
already hold the education license
If you held
Right.
the education license.
Right,
through 2029.
right, but that license may well be inactive,
Yeah,
which would put them under the waiver.
No.
the waiver is
All
not
you
enforcement.
did, it's. They've held
Okay, then I'm
the,
gonna need some more
they
clarification
held
for
the
the law.
education license at any time after June 7th, 2024, December 31st,
Right,
active or inactive,
right.
they're extended until 2029.
And this
Right.
is Mel, but that means
Are we
we
using
paid
different
for it.
terms?
Yeah, that's
I don't
not.
know.
No,
Can we look over that? Sorry, and say it's not possible to follow. We're not giving
okay,
access to our online consumers.
This is Mel. The waiver, the temporary license was what they gave us. And what my understanding is if I actually paid HLO for an educational
Right.
license at any time, that is now extended to 2029.
Right, okay, we're saying the same thing, I'm just saying under the waiver and it's not under waiver. Okay, got it.
This
Um,
waiver is just a limited waiver of enforcement only.
right,
That's all it is.
So, and the reason I think it's important is because if people think that they're working under the waiver in education and they're good until 2029, that is not true. They need to have held that license at some point before December.
right, that part I was clear on, it was just the term.
Yeah, I just don't want people who never got the license, who are working in the waiver, to assume that
I'm
they're.
already on my topics about that. So then is your thinking, before I argue or don't argue, then that if we were to look at a provisional license revamp to be a 3.7, 4.0, whatever it would be, that would take effect in January 1, 2030, question mark? 26.
This is Mel.
Or 2026.
For people who are practicing interpreters in the educational field who have already held an educational license, or who have the ability to meet the qualifications now to get an educational license under that old whatever, they could be good till 2029.
Right.
People who come in and apply for a license January 1st, 2026, would then fall under
Right.
4.0. Right? And I will also say, we haven't clearly defined the in-training piece. Because we can't. So there,
Licensed.
so I get curious about if there's a potential for that transition to the 4.0. There, I don't know if there's space there to support educational interpreters up to the 4.0 under the in-training piece license. And maybe that's the 3.5. Is in training, and maybe that's not for 5 years, that's for.
It's one cycle.
So I still consider there's potential there, there's room to play, I think.
This is Amanda. If 4.0 is the provisional, I think I want the generalist to be different. It is different right now because you also have to take the knowledge exam with it. But if we're gonna say that 4.0 is the baseline, I want them under supervision. I want everyone under
Lori,
supervision.
and I think that's right. That somebody who has earned a 4.0 would need to be under supervision. I can see maybe, although not having thought this through
Yeah.
clearly yet, I reserve the right to change my
Yeah,
mind.
of course.
a 3.7 for provisional. Because that would mean any new employees we hire after that point who don't have an existing license, who are moving from out of state, would have to have at least a 3.7 to be a provisional under supervision. And then a generalist would maintain the 4.0. I think, agree with that.
This is, Amanda, I can go with that too. My point is, I don't care if you got a 4.7. If you've been interpreting for 3 weeks, I want you under supervision, which to me is the provisional. So to get a 4.0, I mean, I've had people graduate from the program with a 4.0. They're not ready to work without supervision. I mean, they're ready to work and they'll bubble through it and they'll be fine, but why wouldn't we give them supervision?
This is Lori.
Because the system is not what's tested.
Agreed.
Like
And
all
yet we
those
have a
guys.
lot of interpreters, all of them,
Yeah.
who are out there in the field right now.
Yeah.
Doing the job, who figured it out, and
And would it be cool?
didn't have that supervision.
And would it be cool?
And it would be, but for the fact that we're putting a lot of burden on supervisors, we're putting a lot of burden on people who've already passed tests and scored well and feel like they're ready to be out in the field. And now they have to pay somebody to supervise them and find that person from across the state out of a list of people who may or may not respond to their. So it's cumbersome to me. Totally get where you're coming from. And my hope is that those people who have a generalist license, who have a 4.0 or better, are also people who recognize, I'm new, I don't really know what I'm doing, I need to find somebody informally to be that mentor, which is what a lot of people do.
100%.
So,
This is Mel. For a general license, do you have anything that says years of experience?
I don't think so.
But there's what? Years of experience?
No, that's in.
Maybe with that, I can address the.
This is Amanda. I think what I'm saying is, if we're gonna change the minimum standard, we still have to recognize what's the minimum standard. It's not the arrival standard. It's still the minimum standard, because that's why it's provisional. If it's not the minimum standard, it's not provisional.
This is Caitlin. I know at a past board meeting, I believe Mitch had mentioned that. You know, it's a hard time being equivalents, aren't real. Oh, 100%. But based on something that they had read, it was 4.0 is equivalent to the NIC.
Sure. There is a research study that says that, yes. There is.
And so we want that from our provisional licensees?
This is not. Again, beginning certification is entry level into our field. I know as practitioners, think it's the be all end all, like we got it. Actually, the certification is entry level.
Yep.
We have created a before entry level provisional.
Yeah.
Right? And so, to reframe that for us a little bit, so I get it, and we are radically changing our field in Oregon by putting provisional because it is also the standard for educational interpreting, and we've changed the parameters of it. We have to redefine that piece. And I want to be respectful of the whole process. And as a lifelong learner and practitioner, I will always have supervision from peers. Like supervision right now is just for this, but they could also be peer to professional supervision that counts for by P. You know what I mean? Like we're creating a framework that hopefully will be supported to continue that lifelong professional development and learning. I am just thrilled and thankful to you guys about agreeing to the 3.7 for provisional. This is a huge,
How do you agree to that?
technically maybe. Because this is the step, it's a baby step, and then in 5 years, we can look at it again. Say maybe it is a 4, right? And this is like the first step to that, and we have to do something in response to not having the educational interpreter.
This is Amanda. I just want to say for the record that the equivalence of NIC and the 4.0 is based on a study that was done with 33 nerdy test-taking people who have the NIC and also took the EIPA, and they scored an average of 4.0 and had an NIC, and thus they're equivalent, which is not good methodology. That it's not actually an equivalence.
I don't think this.
Come back to it at the next meeting. Okay. So I think we'll have to meet on the 26th or the 27th. To relook at continuing education. This one provisional, and then if you change provisional, good generalist. And medical education and legal license, which we're getting into today.
Sorry, I know we're wrapping things up. I just want to say one more thing. I like the 3.7 idea because it shakes things up. It changes the conversation from like, but it's always been 3.5, it's always been this, it's always been that, it's always been this. 3.7, people are gonna be like, 3.7. Yeah, now we can have a conversation about it, right?
I'm not making any changes.
You don't have to, I'm saying for them. All of that, I like that it changes the conversation.
Well, I think I emailed Josh, like I signed up on that, thing about all the workshop, or all the sessions I could do. I don't think I really realized I was gonna be coming, that we were gonna be holding all of those meetings. And it's the beginning of the school year for me, so it's like a confusing time, as well as for Darcy, and, yeah, like, there's a lot happening. So I was curious, like, when we're at form, if there's like one or two over or under, if I can or cannot make it, how impactful that is.
As long as there's a quorum. Okay. Always has to be 6.
7.
7.
And I emailed and updated my availability, I think. Like the 26th and the 27th, I'm not.
You know, of this point, the 27th, more people can come to.
I didn't hear what you said.
On the 26th and 27th of August, which day more people can come?
Are we not planning on doing both of those?
I just want to know. Because I'm also factoring in everybody who's been absent, is going to be here, and they're going to need to add several meetings. So
My husband.
I plan on being there in person the 26th and 27th.
The 26th and 27th, we have 8 confirmed people on. You said, Amanda, you're not able to.
Not available
And we had 7 people that said they could make it on that day.
on both
And
days.
then on a couple of maybes for the 27th, a maybe for the 26th. So we're right, basically. at quorum.
I can do virtual on the 27th. I can do half day on the 26th if that's helpful.
This is Erin. Josh, do you know what I told you for the 26th of August? Did I say yes?
You said no for both the 26th and the 27th.
That is correct. Good.
Anybody, I
Your
have
meeting
one
is
right now.
supposed to be available.
Hope so.
Because I September. 16, 17.
Yeah, I think we still have enough, from my understanding, we still have enough people that we could do a meeting at least on one of those days.
16th or 17th or 26th.
The 26th and the 27th. I mean, it's up to you guys, but there's just a lot of stuff to go over.
This is Lori, I would vote the 27th if we're gonna pick one or the other. Avoiding a litigious meeting.
I would prefer, this is Mel, I like the 22nd.
Okay, do the 27th then, and we'll not do the 26th. Everybody, Nissa, did you get that? Maya, Natalie? Okay.
Sorry, my computer glitched halfway. What were you asking?
Oh, we're not gonna do the 26th meeting, we're just gonna do the 27th.
I'm totally cool with that.
And then on the 27th, we'll decide where we're at in September.
Sounds
Cool.
peachy.
Okay. So I'll do public comment again. Is there anybody even on here public comment?
There's a couple, but they didn't raise their hands.
At this time, the Board of Sign Language Interpreters Rules Advisory Committee will hear public and interested parties' feedback. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to this committee's statutory authority to regulate. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and will not be allowed if disruptive to the committee's business. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? If so, raise your hand. Nobody? Okay. This meeting is adjourned. I feel like I should clap. 2:18. Everybody.